Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
A quorum is present.
Any persons wishing to address the City Council on any item on today's agenda other than closed session may do so at this time.
Okay. Thank you. Today's agenda includes $1.297 million for the Sound Residential Program, as well as $1.642. It is important that these dollars are spent carefully. Neither in these two documents does it tell us how many homes that will cover. And that is for architectural services. And of course, this is a significant thing because even as I stand here today, I know that and item number 6, where we are spending roughly $44,000 for one person to make sure that they check how the dollars from LAWA and FAA are spent once they come to the city of Inglewood. Unfortunately, just about 12 hours ago, one of the most significant supporters that would make sure that the residents of Inglewood were taken care of when the airport expansion began and continued, passed away. It was a long and horrible death, but she was absolutely convinced that just as Caltrans, and MTA, and LAWA refused to acknowledge the significant cancer deaths brought on by particulate matter from airport exhaust, she will no longer be here to fight. But I would hope that those who are pleased with the concept of sound insulation are reminded that all the insulation in the world and all the great hearing in the world will not do a thing for you when you breathe in that particulate matter. And some of us have been fighting very strong and very hard for that. And unfortunately, there are those who want to say, give me some cash and it's okay. It won't bring back Nan or the countless others of persons who have been fighting for this fight when in fact they were being told they were a little bit wacko. It was Nan just a couple weeks ago who made it a point to continue to remind those in powers that they should not forget that the tunnels underneath the airport are still there, that the Argo ditch is a problem, and the aquifer as well. Now, we have been ridiculed, called all kinds of names, naysayers, NIMBYs, and pretty much sold out by a whole bunch of other people in positions of power. But those of us who knew Nan will continue to fight on her behalf, knowing that the generations to come will benefit by our standing tall, even when we're called names.
Gil Matthew, District 4, Mayor and City Council. On payment of the bills, is there a written policy on criteria used in payment of the bills? If not, why not? On payment of the bills with red flex. Said many times that this city is giving away valuable money to red flex, which does not pay. We're paying $89,000 per month to red flex, and there's no one in this city can tell me how much are we receiving? It's highway robbery. It's $451 a ticket. Even if the ticket is successful, the city gets $55. And I can stand here and tell you now that you've been supplying red flags with our money. And I think it's time for you to do something about it. You have no shame about litigation, so just breach the contract. The red flags cameras are not even operating. Anyway, you have the successor agency. Now, we receive all the letters Ms. Cruz received. And I doubt if the council members are receiving them. Now, my question to you is, you have anywhere from 16 to 20 attorneys and consultants, but yet you get from the state, you get things denied. And it's, did you pay the $16 million that was due on the 11th, or you will going to face severe penalties? Oh, and you sit there, you know, like it's all confidential. It's on the computer. Department of Finance put it on the computer. They gave you 5 days to pay it. I don't see it on the payment of the bill, so that's why I'm asking. And we $1.1 billion in debt. $750 million due payments on the ROPS. Outstanding debt is $350 million. But yet you sit and sit and sit. That's reality. And discuss how it's going to affect the general fund. Because I tell you, Governor Brown's going to get his money. So you can sit all you want and hang your head and whatever. But we, the people, are going to man up.
Mr. Matthew, you're done. Thank you.
Good evening, Roy Fisher, the First District. You know, Mrs. Zambrano just mentioned to you them about all those monies that are being allotted for the architects and stuff. You know, I said last meeting to you them that I was concerned that we haven't decided to join Westchester and now Culver City with regard to the lawsuit to stop that north runway. And with regard to, you know, you them getting this together with these architects and stuff, if this north runway project goes through, there are going to be some of the people in the South that have been involved in this funding, supposed funding that has been awash for many years anyway, are going to be out of it anyway, because those planes will be flying further north, then they won't have to put monies into those properties in the South that those people were not lucky enough to have their homes insulated or all the other amenities that put in it. But then it's going to affect us who live in the North, and that's why I asked you them what your position would be with regard to this north runway, because it's going to impact many of us. It's already impacting Culver City, and that's why they have decided to join that lawsuit as some of the other areas over that way. And so, you know, I understand that you have gotten a little bit of money and a year to maybe get some of these projects done, but it's my concern that we that are north there and are going to be affected later, how are you going to address that? And are you going to address that with regard to your position with that lawsuit? Thank you.
Congratulations. I see we got two mics here. Probably be able to hear me better. My name is Willie A.G., and I live in the beautiful city of Inglewood. I'm here to speak on consent calendar number 4. This is one project in this city that's outstanding, and the beautiful lady, the president of it, is sitting back here in the audience. And, I certainly hope this council pass this and with flying colors, because if you was at the grand opening in North Park, I believe it was Wednesday, you see the results. Such beautiful kids, I tell you. I just don't understand why that park went for 20 years without a restroom for kids. Such a beautiful kids. And I want to thank President for coming to the city of Inglewood. Absolutely. Thank you.
Close public comment. Item 1, CSA 1 and H1.
So moved.
Move allow payment of bills. Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye.
Consent calendar items 2 through 6.
So moved.
Second.
Pull item 5 and 6.
Madam City Clerk, 2, 3, and 4.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. Item 5.
Staff report recommending adoption of a resolution amending the 2012-2013 fiscal year budget to include COPS technology and COPS option grant funds remaining from the 2011-12 fiscal year budget.
Move 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
Staff report.
Mayor, I'll have Captain Martin Sisak come in and speak on that item.
Captain Sissick, please come forward.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. My name is Martin Sisak. I'm a police captain with our Inglewood Police Department. Is it on? Unfortunately, the chief could not be here today, so I'm representing him. We are requesting 3 things in this staff report. The first is to adopt the attached resolution to amend the fiscal year 2012-2013 budget to include COPS technology and COPS option grant funds remaining from fiscal year 2011-2012. The COPS technology grant is a DOG grant that comes to us on an annual basis, and we normally use those funds to buy equipment for the police department to increase our technology capabilities. The COPS option grant fund is from a state, it's from California, and we use that also to buy equipment for technology needs of the police department. The second request we have is to approve the use of said funds to purchase various equipment and services to support the efforts of frontline law enforcement personnel. The third is to authorize the use of COPS technology grant funds to increase a purchase order for the radio infrastructure upgrades that we've been completing for the past year and a half now. The amount of both of the grants totals about $419,402, and a portion of that is going to be used to add to the purchase order that's currently in place for the Motorola contract. That amount is only $31,053. The remaining funds will be used to purchase technology equipment such as our records management system, our computer-aided dispatch system. Both are in need of some upgrades right now, and other technology needs such as radio equipment, crime software solutions, safety equipment, and non-lethal weapons. Each of those funds will be going into 2 different account codes. If you have any other questions, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you. Councilman Stephen, you have any questions?
Yes, colleagues, my concern is the following. First, I have our CFOs here, Mr. Esparza. I'd like to ask you a question, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, David Esparza.
Yes, sir. The police department composes what percentage of our general fund?
Off the top of my head, I want to say about 20%, maybe 19 to 20% of the general fund.
20%?
I think that's, you know, it's in that neighborhood.
The total public safety costs around over 47%.
Right.
Around 47%, that's fire and police.
Right, right.
Total public safety costs about 47%.
I was told that it was 160, it's close to 61%. Mr. Falco, could you weigh in on this?
Yes, Councilman, your question, I think, was the general fund. There's other funds that are comprised, the police department utilizes, but total public safety costs of the entire budget could be close to two-thirds. That would be correct.
About 61%.
I believe it's a little bit higher than that.
A little
if you
higher than
include
that.
police and fire together in its sum total.
Mm-hmm. And that's my point. Thank you, Mr. Esparza. Thank you. My point, colleagues, is this, is that currently our police department is absorbing about 61% of our overall revenue. And my concern is
Bless
this.
you.
Beg your pardon, Mr. Falco? Oh, okay, no problem. My concern is this, is that although Chief Fraterata prepared this document, he prepared it in such a way until when you actually look at the resolution that we're approving, it states very clearly, it says the primary purpose of these grant funds is to purchase supplies, equipment, and services, as Captain Sisak stated, but it also says, and fund sworn and civilian positions to enhance the law enforcement efforts in the city. My position is that seeing that we received a letter from the Department of Finance which clearly states that we must make a payment within 5 days of $16,379,496. I am concerned that perhaps this money may be used as overtime. And I do not believe that we should put ourselves in a position to where the resolution itself is written so vaguely until it does not specifically identify those items which the Chief of Police identified in the actual staff report that he prepared. Instead, once again, it's very vague. States the primary purpose of these grant funds is to purchase supplies, equipment, services, and fund sworn and civilian positions to enhance the law enforcement efforts in the city. We also have an issue, whereas although we do have a situation here with the document itself that does not clearly state, to my satisfaction, of what the funds are going to be used for, we also have here, it states, as of March 2013, the department has yet to receive notification regarding this year's COPS option allocation. As of March 2013, the department has not yet received notification regarding this year's COPS option allocation. So we are not clear as to how much money we are going to receive in future grant dollars. So I would propose, colleagues, that and since we do have until, as the document states here, December of 2013, we have until December of 2013. Am I correct, Captain Sisak?
For the COPS technology grant, it's been extended to December 31st of 2013. But if I can clarify some things in this grant.
Go right ahead, sir.
These are rollover funds. These funds were given to the city last year, and we're rolling them over into this year. These grants are specifically designated for certain types of equipment. To my knowledge, at this current time, we can't use them for overtime. They can only be used for procuring equipment for the department. Typically, that increase our ability to be a more enhanced department with technology. So, for example, we're in need of a CAD system currently. A CAD system off the shelf may cost about $2 million if we purchase it off the shelf and deployed it immediately. The funds that we're talking about are only about $400,000, so that is significantly under what we need to actually replace our CAD system. So this money has been earmarked just for that. As you can see, the computer-aided dispatch is one of the first items that we are requesting. So that money would be pretty much absorbed into that total procurement when the chief is ready to purchase a new CAD system for us.
So in the chief's staff report, which states in background, the police department receives grant funds from various federal, state, and local agencies throughout the year. These funds are typically used to purchase equipment and/or supplies for the department and to hire sworn and civilian personnel.
You're absolutely right, sir. That's a general statement. He's talking about the complete breadth of grants that we receive over a course of time, not specifically these two grants. So it's more of a background statement to let everyone know that the department receives funds from various sources, and some funds are used for equipment, some funds are used for staffing purposes. These funds.
I say thank you for your time. Councilman Morales.
Thanks. And I'll probably just go over a lot of the things that the captain went over, but the truth is that it's not uncommon for anybody's municipal budget to be half of it for safety, either police and fire or anything like that, up to about 60%. That's very common, actually. In regards to how these funds are used, whenever we receive grant funds, they're actually specified. There are things we cannot do with the funds. The fact that it was brought up, maybe we should be a little more cautious about spending. This actual item completely signifies that the police department has been extra diligent in reserving these funds. That's why we're transferring. They were left over from last year. Now we're going to use them this year. And the best use of it is to upgrade our system. The chief has sat up there on countless occasions, and those of us who were really focused on what he was saying, he mentioned it more than once about the CAD system, how far behind we are, really what that puts us in regards to the quality of being able to respond to a serious emergency. If we would fall apart in our system we currently have, we would be behind the 8 ball. So I just wanted to mention that this is actually a long time coming. I know the chief has talked to all of us about this, and I know he's going to move forward on using these funds for exactly that. So I look forward to it. I just wanted to say it's a great item, and I wanted to clarify that this has nothing to do with the fact that funds have been either misused or are going to be misused. As a matter of fact, it's completely the opposite. So it's a great item. Thank you very much.
Comment, Mayor?
Councilman Franklin.
Yes, thank you. Actually, colleagues, this item goes way back to 2010 when we had the visit of Department of Justice that was overseeing, or should I say, visiting our city because of the number of officer-involved shootings, and that some of our equipment was so dilapidated that it was difficult to be able to communicate out in the field versus the dispatch or the command center. So as a consequence, on August 2010, this city council approved the over $700,000 grant money to help upgrade the police department, which included your Motorola radios, which were outdated. We also had a number of the officers that only had lethal weapons, and non-lethal weapons is what we needed as an alternative to be identified that should be used first versus then using their actual weapon that could sustain permanent injury or death. And so we gradually have been building up our arsenal to be able to reach out to the community that we are, in fact, not only safety for the officers, but safety for the public as well. And this is a combination of those things. In addition, we always know that if anybody has any computers at all, you know that your software gets old, and you've got to get new licenses if you're going to update. And this is part of that package. So I'm glad this is finally moving forward. We're not complete yet, but we are in the right direction, and this is what Department of Justice has been directing us to do, as well as the former chief, Jacqueline Seabrooks, who'd already started it, and the current captain, current chief, Mark Frontorada, is now continuing to fulfill that requirement. So thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Falco, the general fund has contracted over the last 5 to 6 years, isn't that right?
Yes, sir, it has.
And so as a result, police fire expenditures, although they may increase modestly, would actually grow as a percentage of the general fund. Is that right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Have there been any extraordinary changes, hiring of officers, extraordinary benefit changes?
No, sir, they've actually reduced.
Okay, exactly. So actually, they've actually reduced their expenditures, but the proportion they are of the budget is a more function of the shrinking general fund than it is in extraordinary expenditures on police.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And
Now, Captain Sissick, these monies that we're talking about, could they be used for anything else, for personnel that weren't related to the grant, overtime? This is a performance grant for the communication system, isn't that right?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. So, Mr. Falco, as to this assertion about any dispute that we would have with the Department of Finance, the state, to do with any redevelopment closure issues, could these monies in any way be attached by any disagreement we had with the state?
No, sir.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Stevens,
Aye.
Morales,
Aye.
Franklin,
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. Item 6.
Staff report recommending approval of a one-year agreement with Account Temp Salary Professional Services Division of Robert Half International, Inc.
Move items 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
Mr. Sparza, welcome.
Good afternoon. Just for point of clarification on that last comment that I made, the police department comprises 21.7% of the total budget and 52% of the general fund budget. So
Thank you.
just to put that clarification out there for everybody.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
You have before you a professional services agreement with Account Temps in the amount of $144,000 for professional services of an accounting nature. As you're aware, and the council is aware, that the residential sound insulation program has been under tremendous pressure from LAWA to clean up its books, improve its accounting methodologies, and so we have been we have been using this professional in that regard. Also, it should be known that the one person that we did have in residential sound insulation program who handled finances and budget items has since left the city and gone on to employment someplace else. And so we're actually have somebody that I've assigned on a part-time basis from the finance department to work in RSI, but she also has her other regular duties within the finance department, and so we're really now using this person in a much more rigorous fashion in order to take over the task that the one person that was in RSI have left a void.
Okay. Any questions, Councilman Stevens?
Yes, Mr. Esparza. So the individual that was responsible for correcting the grant reports, they were a temp hire, correct?
No, the person who was responsible for correcting that was RSI staff, and that was the program and fiscal coordinator and the director who also just recently retired. They were responsible for putting together the reports that to go to LAWA.
Mr. Calzada had mentioned over a year ago before you came that he was to hire a temporary person to in fact correct the accounting as well as also the record keeping of our grant reports. So we never hired a temporary person in RSI?
Yes, we did. We did hire a temporary person in RSI. However, there were years and years and years of records that had to be, resorted, reorganized, brought together, and in order to, provide cohesive reports to LAWA. As you remember from the prior weeks, LAWA staff themselves were assigned out here with the city of Inglewood and working for almost 2.5 months to aid in that collection and organization of information. And so they have gone back to their own offices now and have left, the remaining cleanup with the RSI staff. And so we were, depending heavily upon the, fiscal and program coordinator position, and that's the one that left.
Do you believe that staff was responsible for the failure to file the grant reports timely?
I don't know if I'm in a position to say, who failed. I know the program failed. I know there were a lot of gaps and in the program, management and coordination of the, different information bases to pull together. But, I don't really think I have enough experience with that staff to point to one particular person that says they were the person that, caused this to fail.
So, Mr. Esparza, so you feel then that the same individuals who may have caused the late filing of the grant reports to LAWA, which has been the cause of residents in the city of Inglewood not receiving their sound installation timely, they may very well be there working today. Have we laid off anyone? Have we fired anyone from that department or replaced them or anything?
I don't know what the history was before I arrived on October 1st. I know since then there have been a few people that have moved into moved out of the department. But again, it could have been that there just wasn't a vision to coordinate the information databases in the department that really were required in order to put together the necessary reports to LAWA.
I understand Mr. Calzada, the director, has moved on, but I'm referring to the actual employees who were responsible for these grant reports previous. Are they still working in that department?
I don't know. Again, I don't know who left there before I arrived, and what their responsibilities were. I know that the people who are there, there was one person that had the responsibility for the fiscal side of the house. There were other admin staff that worked at the direction of Mr. Calzada. But again, to assess, where the breakup was.
My concern is that this is a temporary person that's going to be here temporarily.
Yes.
And so unless we correct the original problem, then we're only going to repeat the problem after this temporary service is completed. Once we no longer have the temporary personnel there, then we then have to revert back upon staff. So unless staff has been properly trained to ensure that this does not happen again, we are destined to make the same mistake again.
Well,
that's my concern.
You have another item coming after this in the actual report from the department, in which we have retained the services of an outside consulting firm to do program management for the RSI program itself. And it's with that service that we're looking to make sure that we reconstruct the flow of information, reconstruct the responsibilities, and don't go back and make the same mistake again. Because you're right, if we go through all of this and then go back to making the same mistake again, we haven't learned anything. And I think that, to be quite frank, I think we've learned a lot.
Will we be holding anyone accountable?
You're at time, Mr.
I'm accountable for it.
No, sir, before you arrive.
You're at time. Councilman Franklin?
Yes, let me comment. I hear where my colleague was going, but we as a council took action.
That's great.
It was just a few weeks ago that we took action, made a conscientious decision of trying to solidify our base for the residential sound isolation program to continue to exist in this city with specific boundaries or conditions. And part of those conditions consist of that we have an outside service that's coming in to help oversee this operation, along with the account temps to be able to make sure we get our audits current and moving forward. And also there's going to be an assessment to determine whether or not we are overstaffed in that department based upon the amount of housing that's going to be there. And again, whether anyone wants to acknowledge it or not, I want to thank the mayor for having the good continuity and rapport with LAWA in order for us to reach an agreement that this council adopted in a letter form to agree, here are the terms and conditions that we're willing to do X, Y, Z in exchange to get over $27 million that they've been holding for us for the residential sound insulation program. This is just one of those processes or steps that we're now taking and we're implementing. We've already put in the outside service. Now this is the next step, which is the account tips. So we're moving forward. The key is the residents are not concerned about what has happened in the past today. They're concerned about when is my house going to be done tomorrow. And the answer is, until we get that $27 million and others, those 1,000 homes that the mayor has reached out and pledged that this council will be able to generate to get those homes insulated, and the fact that we have a sunset of December 31st, 2015, that we have to get rolling. You've came on board overseeing the operation. I understand you're I'll call it double dipping, because you're doing financing as well as now specific handles residential sound insulation program. But as a team, and again I say teams together, everyone accomplishes more, we're doing our due diligence, recognizing that there had been mistakes. We keep saying that there's been mistakes, but we got to stop the blame game and say we got to draw a line in the sand and move forward and say this is what needs to be done. Let's move forward and get it done. And it starts with us being proactive. And yes, we are doing some reactive things, but we ought to be proactive and move forward, because the more we keep beating ourselves up, LAWA and FAA hears that, and they're going to say now there's a level of concern of delivery to see if we can provide that service. We have committed, the mayor's committed before LAWA on a personal level, and this council has pledged in support of that when we adopted the agreement, and I'd say let's move forward, and I'm ready to call for the vote. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Sparsa, I want to correct something. You're not double dipping. You have double work.
Thank you.
That's a little bit different.
Thank you.
All right. He get double work.
And also, there is a representative from the consulting firm here today to answer any questions or concerns you may have once that item comes up in the next section of the agenda.
Okay, but let's talk a little bit about this whole issue of holding people accountable. How many cities you worked in, Mr. Sparsa?
I'm sorry?
How many cities have you worked in?
5.
Okay. And I've worked in 3. When people are civil service, are they afforded due process before they are blamed for something?
Yes, most definitely so.
Okay. When something is spread out over as long a period of time as this problem germinated somewhere around 2009, 2008. And as I understand it, as we deconstructed it, it involved finance, our record-keeping system, changing our accounting system to the Eaton system, which wouldn't transport all of our records. It involved poor procedures in matching invoices up in the sound insulation program to monies expended, and it resulted in an inability to provide audit reports. There were a lot of people responsible for the totality of that network. Is that right?
That's correct.
And so would it not be impossible to go back and pinpoint 1 or 2 individuals and say, unless they were department heads, and say you are totally responsible for this, because none of those people are here. Is that right?
That's correct. Well, I mean, some of them may still be here.
I'm talking about the people, the department heads that are ultimately responsible.
Oh, okay, yes. No,
because you're here, so they're not here.
They're not, right.
So the point that I'm making is there's not any attempt to evade holding people accountable. In your assessment of it, I know in my assessment of it, it would be impossible to say you right there, sitting in that seat, are responsible for all this that had to go wrong for this to be so messed up. Is that or isn't that true?
That's true. That's correct.
Okay. Is that the reason why you are not launching a retrospective investigation to try and discipline someone? Because ultimately it would be, if you had any person, it would be the manager of the program. He's retired. And then he would say, well, my boss, who was assistant city manager at the time, he knew. So what would be the use of that?
Well, and you make a very good point, and it would actually be counterproductive, because, the first thing that you have to do when you try to correct something is get people to buy in on the new vision, get people to buy in on the new levels of of responsibility and engagement in the program. And I think that for whatever, good, bad, or, otherwise, I think that, people deserve the opportunity to once again prove themselves because, again, there are a lot of different factors that contribute to that. Mm-hmm. And to place that all on the lap of those who are remaining, I think, isn't productive, doesn't, build the team together. And so I think that, moving forward, I mean, I've made this comment to my staff, many times, is we're driving the stake in the ground here and we're moving forward.
Right. You and I have worked a lot on this since you've been here, and we've taken a lot of measures and a lot of negotiating and work with LAWA to get access to tens of millions of dollars that they were under no obligation to give us access to. Is that right?
That's correct.
Is that common in your estimation for people to have grant funds that they do not have to give to you when you've forfeited your right to them?
No, typically what I've experienced in the past is once you've failed to meet the the requirements, that money is taken and given out to other jurisdictions who are really, in a position to, continue moving forward very aggressively. So the fact that LAWA is making this accommodation for us and allowing us to get back into the game and, recapture these funds, I think is quite a blessing, to be quite frank. It's quite a blessing, and I think that you're right. It's taken a lot of hard work to get them to the level of confidence and ourselves the level of credibility that they feel that this money, we'll put it back on the table and let's start seeing how you perform going forward.
Okay, I'm gonna say this last thing. All I heard for close to 2 years was about how incompetent the city was and how terrible it was that people would not get their homes sound insulated and how who could allow this to happen. And now that we have the money, now that we are moving at a pace that we will never seen before in the city to do 1,000 homes in the next 12 months, is this a good thing or a bad thing, Mr. Esparza?
I think it's a good thing.
Thank you. I thought it was a good thing too. Madam City Clerk.
Council members Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales. Aye. Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. DR1.
Staff report providing an update on the string pennant regulations.
Second.
Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Esparza. Welcome, Ms. Tatum.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. This is the third time this item has been before the City Council. I'd like to give you a brief history. The item is related to the city's zoning regulations for string pennants. And just for those who aren't familiar with them, string pennants are those small plastic banners that are hung together by a string, and they're typically displayed at some locations in the city, and they're designed so that they can move with the wind. Last year, the staff was requested by the council to revisit the city string pennant regulations, and the direction was to look at how other cities regulated these pennants, and also to talk to the existing business owners that were had string pennant displays. So after council directed staff to do this, they asked also that staff bring that research to the Planning Commission and have Planning Commission make a recommendation and bring that recommendation back to City Council for their consideration. So staff completed their research, and we found that there was a range of different regulations depending upon the cities. Some cities prohibit those string pennants altogether. Some other cities, like Inglewood, allowed them, but they allowed them for very specific land uses, or they allowed them for very specific and limited time durations. And they mostly required a permit for the display of the pennants. In Inglewood, our current regulations, they allow the display of string pennants without a permit, and they allow them for an unlimited time period. But they only allow them for outdoor businesses, such as automobile sales or a plant nursery. Those are the limitations for who in the city can display string pennants. And they can only display them when they're clean, well maintained, and when they're displayed in an orderly fashion. When staff presented these findings to the Planning Commission regarding the regulations from other cities, from our discussions with some of the existing business owners that council asked us to do, the Planning Commission's recommendation was unanimous that they felt that the current regulations were appropriate in terms of regulating them. And the basis of their recommendation, they expressed were a concern about the proliferation of these types of displays because they can look cluttered if you have them on all businesses along the corridor. So they had a concern that if these regulations were expanded, you might see a proliferation of these banners. And in particular, when they're not well maintained, they can look pretty tattered and have a very negative image of the city along the commercial corridors. So their recommendation was to that the city council not change the current modifications. So staff brought this recommendation back to city council, and as a result of that discussion, council said, let's appoint an ad hoc committee and have that committee go back and take another look at it and bring back a recommendation. So staff has now completed the work of that committee, and we held a couple of meetings with the committee, got their opinions, and after the first meeting they said, we think it's appropriate for us to go out and take a look at some other communities where these string pennants are, and just get a feel for what they look like and what the impact of those pennants are in those other communities. So they did that, and they came back, and at that next meeting, after substantial discussion of the impacts and the effects of string pennants, the committee had a range of opinions about how they could be regulated, and their opinions ranged from prohibiting their use altogether anywhere in the city. That was a couple of, at least one recommendation. There was a recommendation to maintain the current regulations, don't change them, just leave them as they are. There was another one that felt that they should be expanded in terms of the types of businesses that could display them, but to limit the times that they were displayed. And there was also a recommendation or an opinion that we should allow any business that wanted to anywhere in the city for any duration. So the comments or the opinions of the committee were, they ranged from absolutely prohibiting them all the way to allow anybody anywhere at any time to display them. So based upon this, there was no consensus among the committee members, so staff is now bringing their feedback back to the city council and recommending that city council uphold the Planning Commission recommendation, which was to maintain the current regulations, which do allow them on a very limited basis, and to make sure that those that are displayed are well maintained and in orderly condition. The other concern that Planning Commission had, and I neglected to mention it, was just about, to the extent that City Council considers expanding the regulations for these pennants, just the additional code enforcement activity that would be necessary to make sure that they are well maintained and orderly. So that essentially concludes staff's remarks, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilwoman Dunlap.
No, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Madam City Clerk.
I have a comment.
Councilman Stevens.
Ms. Tatum, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I noticed in the staff report it states very clearly as there was no consensus among committee members regarding pennant regulations. So the very committee that we assembled, those individuals actually did not have, they could not come to a consensus in reference to this new policy that we're establishing, yet they were the business people who it will affect. Just could you briefly tell me what was their, why were they not able to come to a consensus? What was the issue?
I think they just had different opinions. That's my interpretation of, they just had different opinions. And there was a mix not only of business owners, there were more business owners, but there were also residents on the committee as well. So it was just a range of opinions.
My concern is that we make we will allow a auto sales lot to have pennants, but we will not allow we will allow a plant nursery. But here's my bigger issue. I do not believe that this is, if this city actually is business friendly, and we actually are trying to encourage businesses to operate here in the city, I almost feel as if this is counterproductive towards that goal. Case in point, new technology has arrived, where they have, instead of pennants, they have flags that wave. I know of particularly a car wash at Arbor Vitae and La Brea. He has a vertical flag, extends no more than 3 feet out on his property, not in the walkway, not on the sidewalk. On his property, removed almost 20 feet from the sidewalk, La Brea Express Car Wash. That flag does not obstruct any person there. It simply draws attention to his business. It's well maintained. It's not faded or anything. Yet we demanded him to remove that flag. Flag stands about, I guess, about 6 feet. It's not a danger, it's not a hazard. Yet our code enforcement comes out and asks him to remove that flag. And all he's trying to do is draw attention to his corner where his car wash is. Express Car Wash at La Brea and Arbor Vitae. And we discussed that some time ago. Matter of fact, he was a member of your committee, on your committee, correct, Ms. Tatum?
I believe so, yes.
Yes, and we discussed it, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And and you went to the location, did you not?
No, this code enforcement staff went
Okay.
out.
My point is that the flag is actually on his property. And all he's trying to do is draw attention to it. But yet we're going to say under this ordinance for pennants, it also encapsulates those flags, doesn't it?
No, that's a different regulation.
Well,
But
it's a different regulation?
it's not a string pennant. It's a different type of sign, and that regulation is not permitted by code. No wind-activated signs are permitted by code, and that's the reason that business was cited.
Okay. According to your document here, it states that accordingly, certain types of signs are prohibited, including wind-activated signs, flags, pinwheels, etc. It's right here in your document. Right here.
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Now, I would like to ask my colleagues, well, let me not ask my colleague. Let me ask my city attorney. Hello? I would like to ask you, sir. I would like to ask you, what would be the procedure to add car washes to be exempt? As we have here, it states very clearly, it states, should the City Council approve this recommendation, no change to the code would be undertaken, and pennant displays would continue to be limited or permitted outdoor business activities such as auto sales and plant nurseries. I would like to add car washes to that. How would we go about doing that here today, my colleagues? Could you just tell them, as well as myself, how would we go about doing that?
The procedure would be the same way that the Planning Commission did. Generally, that information would go to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission would make a recommendation to the City Council. The City Council could, on its own, also amend the ordinance or the municipal code dealing with that particular language.
Okay. So we could actually make an amendment on this right here today, correct?
Not as to what you're saying. The issue that comes up to the City Council today is what's in the DR number 1.
So we cannot amend the document, is what you're saying?
The request that's coming up is regarding string pennant regulations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you're at.
Okay. So once again, Ms. Tatum,
Yes.
you stated.
Okay, we're at time. We're at time. Any other council comments?
Well, I think, yes, Mayor, I believe Ms. Tatum could respond with regard to the process and procedure. It is something that could be done in the future, just cannot be done this evening.
I think, Councilwoman, that the city attorney just said that.
Excuse me.
I don't think that we need Ms. Tatum to do it
All right,
again.
you know what, I'd like an opportunity to speak, please.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Ms. Tatum, if a member of this body wanted to amend the code, right now it limits string pennants to auto sales and plant nurseries. Well, first repeat, is there anything other than auto sales and plant nurseries? What you have in the staff report are just those two items. What do you recollect?
It is that the outdoor business activities, meaning.
No, I understand, but these two are listed. Do you remember specifically any others? I don't.
No, those are the
reviewed
two.
it, but
That's correct. Those are the only two.
how many plant nurseries do we have within the city limits?
I'm not aware that there are any plant nurseries.
Correct, so this is apparently outdated. I mean, this language.
Well,
last
the
nursery
intent-
that I'm aware of.
the
No, I
intent is-
understand the intent. But the last nursery that I'm aware of, it's been gone for several years. There's actually a little strip mall in its place
Right.
today. So I don't believe we have any plant nurseries. So to limit, to have something in our code that talks about permitting a particular business activity in a business that doesn't exist, we could correct that. We could
That's
amend that. So at the same time, if we wanted to add something else, it could be amended as well. And I believe that's something that would be brought before Planning Commission first, correct?
That's correct.
All right, well, then I think that's a recommendation that any member of this body could make to the city administrator, to the city manager some point in time in the future with regard to having it reviewed and looked at by the Planning Commission with regard to amending that language, to correct this outdated language, because this business does not exist in the city, and if they wanted to change it or add another type of business.
And
I would like to state that this initially was being reviewed because of a business in the second district. The manager of the supermarket in District 2 made the request because they had actually put up string pennants at a cost of around $500, I think, and to increase their business. And they did believe it brought some attention because they're kind of set back. They did believe it increased their clientele coming to them. The city went out and made them remove those pennants, which cost them another $500, which had a financial impact on the business. So they brought it to our attention and they asked if we would review it. They didn't see any harm with regard to the potential of advertising their business, meaning the supermarket. And that's what brought this up. Obviously, there would be no one here who would disagree that worn out and tattered string pennants are unattractive. So that's not even an issue. That's not even on the table. Obviously, that wouldn't happen. But to have some kind of temporary, which I think these are temporary anyway, even at these other businesses. So I just want to bring it up so the public understands why it was ever being discussed. It was the concerns of a business owner. And by the way, that business manager, I should say, would have been here this evening to speak on this matter because it did impact their business and they were concerned about it, but that business owner has since passed away, which is why he's not here tonight to speak on this. But he did appreciate the fact, Ms. Tatum, that the City Council at least was looking into it. He was not happy with the outcome as it was going on. But I want to clear the record with regard to the fact that this language can be amended at the Planning Commission language, and that's information for every member of this body, including the chair. Thank you.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but this is kind of the outcome of when you come here on Tuesdays and then you decide you want to change. How long have we been debating this string pennant thing, Ms. Tatum? How long
it
has that
started in early 2012.
been? Okay, 2012. So it would have probably been more efficient if there were any other changes that we wanted to make if we had discussed them along the way. Someone discussed them with staff, discussed them with the city manager. Did anyone ever bring anything to you to say we want to look at other things?
No.
Okay, thank you. And so this is what happens when you are going to do your work on Tuesdays. This is what happens. We spent 10 minutes talking about something that nobody's talked about. This is what happens. Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Dunlap?
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Mayor Buds?
Aye. DR2.
Staff report recommending approval of agreement with Weldon Engineering, Inc. for construction management services as it pertains to the La Brea Avenue pavement reconstruction project Phase 2.
Move 1, 2, 3.
Second.
Staff report.
Mr. Lockhart, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. This item you have before you regarding an agreement with Wilden Engineering for construction management services for La Brea Avenue pavement reconstruction Phase 2 involves 3 actions. One is to adopt a resolution amending the FY 2012-2013 city budget to appropriate a total of $419,978 in gas tax funds to the La Brea Avenue pavement reconstruction project Phase 2. Secondly, to approve a professional services agreement with Wilden Engineering for construction management services in the amount of $309,071. And third, to approve a 10% project contingency in the amount of $30,907. Council will recall, I'm sure, that a few weeks ago on March 28th, you approved the award of a construction contract for the La Brea Avenue Phase 2 pavement reconstruction project, which spans the southern portion of La Brea Avenue from the south city limits to Hillcrest. That's about a $5 million construction project. It involves full pavement reconstruction, concrete repair, and a variety of associated work. With regard to the need for construction management services, on February 7th, the city advertised a request for proposals in the Inglewood Today newspaper and various construction trade publications. In response, 8 proposals were received on February 28th, and on page 2 there's a listing of the firms that submitted proposals. Those proposals were ranked by experienced public works staff independently, and the factors considered included the scope of work to be performed, experience with similar kinds of work, staff experience, technical ability, familiarity with state and federal procedures and related subjects. With respect to the construction project, is expected to begin about the end of this month and completed by December 2013. The review panel made the finding that Wilden Engineering was the best qualified consultant based on the performance measures I've discussed, and accordingly we have the recommendation before you today. Construction management, of course, will be very critical to this project given its size, scope, and the relatively short duration of the project. Mayor and Council, that concludes my prepared remarks. Be happy to respond to questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
Comment?
Councilman Stevens?
Mr. Lockhart, just a quick question for the residents. Gas tax funds, those can be used for residential streets?
Gas tax funds may be used for a wide range of street type improvements. They may be used for residential streets, may also be used for major streets. Both may be used for actual construction, may also be used for services or staff.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, sir. And then, Mr. Lockhart, you had no involvement in this project when we were laying down the sewer lines as well as also new sidewalks along La Brea?
No, sir, not in the way in which you asked the question.
Yes, you had no involvement as far as supervising the project or anything like that, correct?
No, sir.
Okay. Colleagues, I sincerely believe that the public does wish for individuals to be held accountable. As I stated, Mr. Lockhart had nothing to do with this project at that time, my knowledge of what I do know from speaking with individuals. We have a situation here where now we are coming back and we're utilizing Measure R funds, gas tax funds, and these funds could be used for repaving of the streets in District 1, areas that are not inside of Community Development Block Grant areas. As you know, District 1 does not have that many block grant funds areas eligible because District 1, according to the recent census, the per capita income of the households exceeds the amount that would make it eligible for CDBG block grant funds. Therefore, funds such as gas tax funds are crucial to District 1's repaving of their streets. Now, Mr. Lockhart, if you take a look at Exhibit A, we have here the amended budget of $419,978. $419,978. And then we also have another $339,978. And we're looking at an increase in this. My question to you is this, sir, is that when we're talking about the individuals to be paid here, a two-person crew of $235 per hour, a project manager of $185 per hour, a federal invoicing clerk $180 per hour, a resident engineer $135 per hour, a labor compliance specialist $120 per hour, a construction manager $110 per hour, a public works inspector $95 per hour, and a clerk $65 per hour. These individuals will all be paid through the company identified in this document, which is Weldon Engineering, correct?
Yes.
Now, do we or do we not have engineers that could actually do this work in-house, that are skilled, have the skill set to accomplish these job descriptions?
We have engineers that have some of the skills of these people, but we do not have those people available for this project relative to the extent of work required for the short duration of time the project would be in progress.
The only reason I bring this up is because, colleagues, is that with the letter from the Department of Finance, which states very clearly that we will have to make a payment of $16,379,496, I would think that some of these positions here, perhaps a project manager, perhaps a clerk position for $65 an hour, a public works inspector of $95 per hour, perhaps some of our own staff here in the city could perform some of these tasks, some of these duties. A construction manager, labor compliance specialist, resident engineer. I'll rely upon Mr. Lockhart's expertise. But federal invoicing, $180 per hour. Project manager, $185. And these are once again coming from gas tax funds, funds that can be used to repave streets in District 1. And that's my concern, is that we are spending so much money. And once again, with 15 seconds left, I'd just like to say this. When this street was, this is our second go-around with this street. The sidewalks were installed, the sewer lines were installed, and my understanding is that when we had our supervisor by the name of Glenn Cowell here, my understanding is that at that time, money was allocated for street repaving. So we're in essence doing a street twice.
Okay.
And that's my concern.
Okay,
And that's the issue for me.
We're at time. Any other comments?
I would, Mayor.
Councilman Franco?
Yes, so let me just piggyback with my colleagues' comments regarding gas tax. There are streets citywide that do not fall under the definition of CDBG areas to qualify for gas tax, or I should say for CDBG funding. But for gas tax, it is available for those non-CDBG areas, particularly even in District 4, where I have Century Heights and Inglewood Knolls, where there are a number of concerns regarding the streets and the alleys that's in that area. This priority came into effect years ago when we were pulverized by the public about how can our neighbors have such beautiful streets, boulevards, and we can't, particularly the city of Hawthorne. So we did start a phase, along with the support of the federal government, of assisting us with funding, the Tiger Grant funds, et cetera, we reached out for, in order to start the repaving of La Brea from Florence to Hillcrest. And it was going to be a 3-phase project, and then we had some hiccups with some of the merchants along that area that felt there should be some kind of compensation for their inconvenience. And we resolved those issues. Now we're ready to finish the last leg of it and incorporating phase 2 and 3 together to go from Hillcrest north to south to 104th. And we've learned from those past mistakes on the construction, to the point that this contract will allow the construction work within 100 days of them commencing, will be in the evening hours from 8:30 p.m. to 5:30 a.m., which is primarily the business area, which is predominantly closed. So we do not have that congestion we had before during the daytime hours, where the businesses were running and people was on peak hours trying to get to and fro to their place of work. I do have one question of concern, and that is, in the past, as to the location for a staging area where some of the material and construction equipment may be stored. Have we considered the properties owned by the city that's off of Queen and Regent?
In response, specific areas for staging have not yet been considered. We are awaiting a proposal from the construction company relative to their schedule and how they would conduct the work.
Okay, and then my final comment would be that we want to make sure that this time that the merchants are put on notice as to the dates, the anticipated dates of construction and the hour of the day that the physical construction is going to take place, and then notify through our outreach of our public media outreach city manager to make sure that the public knows that you may want to consider some alternative routes for the next 100 days, or as you said, to possibly end of the year, to allow them to adjust to this temporary inconvenience. So, but overall, it'll be something that you appreciate at the end result, which is what we're currently enjoying now on La Brea between Hillcrest and Florence. On that note, thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other council comments?
Yes, I do.
Councilwoman Dunlap?
Yes, with regard to the detail listed here for the Phase 2, when it says conduit construction, are we going to be doing anything in conjunction with the sewer and water line repair?
I don't recall what extent of sewer line or water line may be part of the construction contract.
Well, my point is this: we do plan a major water and sewer line reconstruction throughout the entire city.
Yes.
And obviously, we don't want to be laying down expensive roadways and then having to deal with it after the fact by tearing it up again. So I would like for you in your office, please, to look at this once again. We're going to be approving this evening, but to review the details, to make sure whatever we may be needing in the future regarding sewer and water, that whatever base needs to be done regarding what kind of conduit or piping or whatever, that we take care of that initially. If we have to add to it, then it has to come back before us, and we need to do that. But I think it's critical that that be looked at, so thank you.
Okay. Mr. Lockhart?
Yes, sir.
Any grant funds involved in this construction project?
There are grant funds involved in the construction project, yes,
Right.
sir.
Okay. And so that kind of adds a timeliness component to doing this work, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When I came into office, talking about this whole issue of accountability, since the councilman is very concerned about that, did I sit down with you and the Public Works Director to discuss the fact that we were in danger of de-obligating a number of construction grants that the city had at its disposal?
Yes, sir, I remember that meeting well. It was in August. that we
Exactly.
started with city.
Exactly. And I was pretty upset that we hadn't drawn down any of those funds and we were about to de-obligate, means lose millions and millions of dollars. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lockhart, is that Public Works Director still here?
I'm sorry, sir?
Is the Public Works Director that was here then still here?
The Public Works Director...
Don't say the name. Is he still here?
No.
Thank you. Okay, now, when you have to perform with a grant, sometimes you have to use other funds to do parts of the project. Is that right?
Yes.
And that's these gas tax funds that we're using, because if we don't use them, we won't have access to, what's the totality, how many millions of dollars is this grant to finish La Brea to Century?
As I indicated in my opening remarks, the overall construction project cost is approximately $5 million.
Thank you very much. And so, if we don't do this, now another thing, that because we are attempting not to have millions and millions of dollars in grant funds de-obligated, there's a lot more work going on in your division. Is that right?
Yes.
More than has been done probably in the last 5 to 10 years, concurrent at the same time. Is that right?
There was more activity than I've seen in my 3.5 years here. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. So that's why you need to hire additional staff, even though some of these projects are transitory. Once the project life is done, we won't need to have personnel after that to do these functions. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And so it costs what it costs to have people do the jobs that have to be done. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So do we have the staff to do this project exclusive of hiring these outside contract people at this point in time?
No.
All right. Thank you very much. Madam City Clerk?
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye.
Excuse me, Mayor.
DR3?
When, could you give an estimate as to when we might get some information back to guarantee that any water or sewer line repair or rehab in this particular stretch, that it either is going to be done or needs to have added funding?
Actually, I'll ask Mr. Falco to talk to Mr. Atwell when we conclude the meeting.
Great, thank you.
DR3, that's a very
Staff?
good idea, by the way. DR3?
Staff report recommending approval of agreement with the CSDA Architects to provide program management services for residential sound installation programs.
Move items 1 and 2.
Second.
Staff report?
Mr. Esparza, welcome again.
Good afternoon. Before you, Mr. Mayor and council members, you have a proposal from the Residential Sound Insulation Department requesting the approval of a contract for program management services from the architectural engineering and construction firm of CSDA Architects in the amount of $1.3 million. And this is to provide program management service versus engineering services, and goes to the point that came up early in our discussion on account temps. They will be providing a number of oversight and recommendation services, providing how we can do the job more effectively, more efficiently, and actually, to go to Mr. Stevens' point that he made, they're actually even bringing in a financial model that will allow us to then coordinate the data sets that we have into the specific reports that are requested by LAWA. So they have a number of professionals that will be on site, depending on the need for those services. And we recommend approval of this. As I mentioned earlier, also, there is a representative from the firm here to speak and answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, I'd like to ask the representative to step forward.
Councilman Stevens?
Good afternoon. I'm Christian McIver with CSDA Architects.
Hello, sir. Your company is located in Marina Del Rey?
That's correct.
I see. Is there a reason why your office is not located here in Inglewood?
No particular reason. We've been there for roughly about 6 years now, so it's just been established in that location.
I see. Now, you're bringing a financial model to assist us with the filing of our grant reports?
That's correct.
Will that system incorporate the Eden system?
That's to be determined right now. We're assessing that situation, and we're going to put forth a recommendation that we feel is best, and put that in front of the team, and let them make that decision.
Well, transparency is very important here in the city of Inglewood, sir, especially in 2013, going into 2014. The issue is that how could you bid on a job and not know exactly what components you were going to use for your financial model?
Well, we do know for a fact that we can put together a database that will accomplish the goals that we've been set to be asked to do. The Eden system in itself is one that is a little bit unique to us, but we feel that we can make all these systems work together as we move forward.
Well, we've had problems with our Eden system in the past, but it's not a system that you ordinarily would work with, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I also have another question for you.
Mhm.
Now, your service, what you're going to be providing is for the management. Well, first off, is this your personal company?
No, it's not.
Who
I'm
is
an
it?
employee of CSDA Architects.
And your capacity is what, sir?
I am one of the program advisors,
Program advisor?
program management advisors.
Management advisors?
Yes.
Okay. So who is the owner of your corporation? Is there a sole owner, or is it a just
It's
exactly?
a corporation, but we do have a majority owner by the name of Randy DeVoto.
Randy whom?
DeVoto,
DeVoto.
yes. But it
Okay.
is a corporation.
Okay, but you are not the owner.
No, I am not.
Okay. So my next question to you, sir, is this, is that you're going to assist the city. It says this effort will assist the residential sound installation in meeting program goals and objectives by providing sound installations modifications for up to 1,000 or more homes, services under the CSDA Architects Program Management Agreement. Now, your service, what you're going to be doing is, you're going to be doing what exactly?
Our job will be to be here firsthand. Like Mr. Esparza spoke on before, we'll be on the premises to support the team, to assess the staff, the process, and also the tools that you currently have, and make recommendations, and also work with the team to monitor the program, to make sure that the program meets its goals.
So you're not going to, it's not that this component of your agreement is not for you to do any type of architectural services. You're just there based primarily for management.
Correct.
Yes, there's another, DR4 is actually another component of services that we've contracted with them for architecture and engineering design services.
So, Mr. Esparza, CSDA, are they going to replace Mr. Sid Allen? Is that what they're doing?
No.
So we're going to continue to have Mr. Sid Allen also?
Oh, no.
No?
Their services are very different. You know, we have, you know, they've been directed for tangible deliverables. You know, there won't be a need for additional services from
Mr. Esparza, I've got a
Mr.
minute, and I've got 1 minute and 13 seconds, sir, and I would love to hear the conclusion of what you're about to say, but here I have to wrap this up.
Okay.
This is my issue. Your management services are going to cost $1,297,920. Once again, $1,297,920. $1,297,920. Now, you're saying, Mr. Esparza, she's coming in, they're going to come in to manage our program. They're not going to be conducting any type of architectural design. All they're going to be doing is managing the program and keeping the team motivated?
No, let me make sure that we're very clear on this. They do not manage. They provide program management consultation. So the recommendations that they will develop will be delivered to city staff. City staff will then implement those as they deem appropriate and then make the decisions. So they're not, and I want to, because this has come up in other conversations that I have, and I want to make sure it's very clear, they do not manage city staff. They are providing a program management consulting service.
So they will provide direction to you, and then you will then direct staff.
Correct.
For $1,297,920. Colleagues, I do not support this. I'm having trouble with the cost of hiring an additional individual, an additional company, to perform the duties of what Mr. Esparza said, that we have staff that is capable of performing the duties inside of our RSI department. No one needs to be held accountable. Everything is fine now. We have Mr. Esparza, we have Mr. Sid Allen, and now we're bringing on board this company by the name of CSDA Architects, located in Marina Del Rey. You're located in Marina Del Rey, right?
That's correct.
When previous, Wiley Laboratories performed pretty much the same functions, and yet there was not the additional cost of $1,297,000 it was non with Wiley, and yet Wiley also had an office here in the city of Inglewood.
I don't know if you're comparing apples to apples in that assessment. The services that Wiley was providing are not the same scope and nature that CSDA is providing.
But
so, I mean, I'm not quite. I don't
I'm not
know
quite
specifically
clear on-
what you're referring to.
If I have you, Mr. Esparza, and I have Mr. Sid Allen, who is from Burbank, and their program is virtually completed, and this gentleman is going to come into our department to keep everyone motivated, so he says, keep the team going, and yet it's not for architectural services, though they are an architectural firm.
Okay, you're beyond time.
I do not see just why we are going to pay them $1,297,000
Okay.
for that. I
Okay.
just do not see it.
Okay.
I do not see it.
Okay, we're at time. Councilwoman Dunlap?
A couple of questions, just for some clarification on the staff report, Mr. Esparza.
Yes.
If I may. It says that there are currently 803 units in the pipeline for the residential sound installation program. Are these the units that were approved somewhat
Yes.
in the
Yes.
recently? And it says 820 units remain to be invited. Are those 820 units meet the new standards of single-family home?
Yes, where the priority would be given to
Yes.
single-family homes. Yes.
So all of those homes that you have listed, of the 820, meet that new criteria we've set?
Yes.
Okay. And what is the plan with regard to the remaining 2,777 units?
Well, we want to carry. Our proposal is to do 1,000 units in this 12-month period of time. We're looking to do an additional 1,000 to 1,200 units in 2014, and then we want to continue, doing as many of these units until we get all the way through 2015. So, I mean, they're in various stages of being organized, designed, and then moved into construction.
All right, I just wanted to clarify that we were, with regard to any new homes being placed in the pipeline, this is the language here, that they did meet our new criteria.
Yes.
And I would like to say that when this program initially started in 93, 94, mid-90s, I had recommended that we do it not through city employees, because it's a finite program, that we do it apparently as we're beginning to move forward now, and that is through either management consultants, engineering consultants, and so forth, because in the long run, had we have done this, our program this way from the very beginning, would have been more cost effective. I'm sure we would not have lost the funding that we did, and just been far more proficient for us as a city. And then when it's over, we wouldn't have these ongoing debts that we will have by using city employees through retirements and so forth. So it's taken a long time to come this way. But I think it's what needs to be done under the circumstances. But I would like to make sure that with regard to new hires in the department, what are we doing? Any vacancy due to attrition, or I'm assuming going to be kept vacant?
That's correct.
Okay. And I'd like to know, within the last year or with the abolishment of redevelopment, did we add any staff to RSI?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. I wasn't sure about that. All right. Like I said, had we have done this from the very beginning, who knows, we could have possibly finished all the homes by now, and much more cost-effective for the residents of this community in time and energy and getting the job done for them. And also with regard to our own ongoing liability that wouldn't have occurred. So anyway, I support this item. Thank you.
Quickly, just briefly.
Councilman Morales.
Mr. Esparza, the gentleman here, it's important that Ms. Dunlap hit a little bit on it. This is something we probably should have done a long time ago. A lot of times when we bring in a management company, construction managers, we tend to believe we could do the work. The truth is, we had our chance to do it and we failed. When we hire some folks like yourself to manage a project, there's a lot of elements in the project that you're working on.
a lot of the key conversations that are going on between any contractor that gets hired and, our staff, you would then pretty much be present and guide those conversations with both all the professionals from your office. Am I correct? Essentially, that's what you're doing.
Correct.
You're protecting our interests, not only that, but you have the expertise to follow up on any project that's going on throughout the city at the time, timelines, any costs that they're saying that they need additional ones. You have the knowledge that tells us, no, they don't, right?
Correct.
So essentially, that's what the management company is bringing, something we didn't have. And you're going to crack the whip on them also, which is something we didn't do.
I wouldn't use those terms, but yes.
But that's what you're doing.
Yes.
And the bottom line is, a lot of times we get these contracts. So I don't want you to think, we don't understand what you're here for. We're glad you're here. Mr. Esparza, thank you for all the work you did in the sound installation program. And quite frankly, this is the best opportunity I've seen to get these homes done in due diligence. Obviously, the funds, we heard what the mayor went through to get those. They're here. Now it's time to move forward. So welcome, and, I know you'll be here often enough to get any questions, either you or your staff. So thank you.
Councilman Franklin? Yes, just brief comments. One is, this appears to be the only firm of the 4 that's in Southern California. Where's San Bruno?
San Bruno, it's south of San Francisco.
Yeah, so this is, of the 4 ranked architects or firms, CSDA is the one in Southern California.
That's correct.
The other 2 in question is out of state, including Georgia and Massachusetts. So this is as close as we can get.
Right.
Second of all, they have institutional knowledge with reference to the use of the airport and the services rendered, particularly under the RSI program. And they are extending their arm of services by a staffing of 47 additional individuals that can assist our current staff to move this project forward to meet our goal. And again, we said that the goal was rather strenuous, to meet 1,000. We've never did that in the history of the city's operating RSI. And this is one of the many steps that this body council has adopted to move forward. And this firm specifically was identified with LAWA that we should, in fact, embrace to move forward. So the scope of work is actually in the staff report on page 3 or 4 that talks about the detailed program management consultation and actual physical work that's got to be done. All said and done, they become part of the team for the city for us to revamp, remove, forward the stench that was there before is now being embraced. And the key element is obtaining the credibility and reliability with LAWA and FAA that we are worthy of receiving these funds. And again, I want to emphasize, there's $27 million that is subject for us to receive. And this is $1 million of service, and it's a 1-year contract for us to be able to move forward. So as a consequence, this is just one of those steps, and it's critical that we continue to move on so they can get started and we can get the money back into our community to the soundproofing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're absolutely right, and the fact that they've got I think something in the neighborhood of 22,000 homes that this firm has constructed for residential sound insulation programs throughout the state or they're nationwide, and so that level of expertise is going to help us create and move into a much more efficient and effective program in order to provide these services to the residents of the city.
I want to make a couple points. First of all, we had basically de-obligated ourselves for $36.8 million in $9.2 million a year grant we had not received. Is that right?
That's correct.
And I believe the most homes we'd ever done in a year is around 400. Is that right?
There may have been some years early on that they performed at higher rates, but that on an average, I think you've got it pretty close.
Okay. The work that your company's doing, the scope of work, that's covered on page 3 of 4 in the staff report. And if anybody wants to understand why they're charging what they're charging, because basically they're replicating all the functions that we spend about $2 million a year with employees to do. And then now you might say, well, why are we doing that? And so why are we spending another $1.2 million? First of all, that $1.2 million is being paid for out of grant funds that we re-obligated ourselves for. And LAWA obviously felt we needed to have a company with this type of experience so that we could definitely get the job done. At this point, we really need to be through talking and yimmering and yammering about what happened before and what we hope happens. We need to perform. So I understand that all the services that you're providing, they come with cost. I also understand they're being paid for with money that we never would have had access to, and it was part of the agreement with LAWA, so they would have a level of comfort that we had some company with the expertise so that we could complete this ambitious goal of 1,000 homes a year. Without doing this, we would never have a chance to get to all of the homes in the contour. And so I want to make that very clear to everyone that that's why we're going down this road, and it was part of our agreement to receive access to these funds. And your company is located where it's located, sir.
Exactly.
All right. And Madam City Clerk, could you call the roll?
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Dunlap?
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Mayor Buds?
Aye.
DR4?
DR4.
That's right.
Staff report recommending approval of agreement with CSDA Architects to provide architectural and engineering design services for residential sound installation program.
Move items 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
Question.
Councilwoman Dunlap.
Will we be utilizing the services of any other architectural firm during this period?
We have some remaining architectural drawings that are being done by Jones Payne, but that's a relatively that was actually moving forward before this contract was put in place.
So any work in progress will be completed by whatever architectural firm that is, but any new work will be completed by the firm that we're considering this evening, CSDA.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Comment?
Councilwoman Stevens.
Yes. I just would like to ask you, your company is going to provide architectural drawings, correct, for those homes that need to be sound insulated, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Esparza, the drawings that they are going to provide will be for those homes that were already in the pipeline that we described as sitting on the shelf, correct, for the past 3, 4, 5, 6 years?
Well, so that we understand how we're looking at this is that some of those that were sitting on the shelf, those designs, have been dated now, okay, because we didn't get them into construction in a timely manner. The engineering and architectural stamps may have expired, code changes may have occurred, and so our responsibility is to go over those drawings and to make sure they're up to date and their code standards and ready to go to the construction firms. Now, there's also the next group that hasn't been drawn yet that they will also be taken control of.
And those would be the new applicants. But the issue that I have concerns with in reference to accountability, see, as you heard Ms. Zambrano say, though she does not live in the city of Inglewood, but there are a large number of individuals who have died waiting on that shelf. And I have an issue with that. And though it's not your fault, but Mr. Esparza, you weren't here.
Right.
But I must tell you, and I must say to the residents, I have an issue with that. That people were placated and set to the side, and architects were paid to render drawings, and then those drawings were placed up on the shelf. They were placed up on the shelf. Now, the city received both the architectural component, but something we don't talk about is that they also received back then the construction component. And see, and my issue is that now we're going to pay twice for your services, for your company services. And we're going to be paying twice for services to the tune of, let's see here, to the tune of, is this correct? $1,642,237.73?
That's correct.
$1,642,237.73. So my question is, if you're coming to come in and oversee what has already been done, then Mr. Sparson, my question is, you really do not feel that we need to think about holding somebody accountable? Regardless of if they've left the city and they're no longer here. They left with their pensions, they've gotten their gold watch, and they're sitting somewhere enjoying life, and my residents are sitting here, those who are still alive, suffering from jet noises and breathing benzene and other carcinogens causing cancer, as they sit here waiting and waiting and waiting. And as we all know, there will not be enough money to go around. Because, see, the money that is being used to pay this entity, CSDA Architects, that money is coming from the same pool, correct, Mr. Esparza?
No, it's coming from re-obligated funds that we didn't have before. Now, and so that you also understand is that the work rate, the billing rate that they're charging us, makes a distinction between those plans that they are reviewing and updating and those plans that they are starting, anew. So it's not a flat fee per, whatever work that they're handling at the time. They have a stepping, billing rate for the review and then the recertification of plans.
How they run their business is their business. How we run the city is ours. And my concern is this, sir, is that though they may very well be deserving of the funds of $1,642,237.73, they may very well be deserving of that. My issue is that the plans were completed. The plans were completed 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 5 years ago, and there they sat. Yet construction was not started, yet we received the money. So the question to me is, where is the money?
Okay, we're at time. Councilwoman Dunlap.
And someone should be held accountable.
Councilwoman Dunlap.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I didn't ask.
All right. Real quickly, let's go back a little bit. There were a number of homes that were designed 5 years ago. Is that right?
That's correct.
And some very bad things happened, and we lost our eligibility for our grants, and homes were designed and they weren't completed. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, this number of homes is 800 and some homes that were designed. The design work was done. Those are the first ones to be completed. Is that right?
Right.
Now, what you're charging us for those homes is a review and updating, if necessary, for those architectural designs. Is that right?
That's correct. We're evaluating those.
And that's not the same cost as what you would charge to take a home from scratch and do the design work.
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay? And it's necessary that we do it this way, because otherwise those homes would have to be redesigned over again, and we'd have to pay full boat for that, right?
Correct.
So for where we find ourselves now, this is the best that we can do. Isn't that right?
I think so.
And let me also make a clarification that the drawings that never went to construction, we didn't expend those construction dollars. Those are part of the dollars that LAWA has pulled back because we were never, timely in moving from the design stage to construction, and so the money that you've negotiated to get put back onto the table from LAWA, that's part of the construction funds that never were spent. So it's not that the designs were made and the construction firms took the construction dollars without doing any construction work. That did not occur.
And so that's my point. You know, it's always cute for people to throw out the Jerry Maguire, show me the money thing. That's really cute, but it's really not effective. The reality is that the money, the services were rendered, but the construction wasn't completed in a timely fashion. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
In many cases, not even started.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so does it do us any good at this point to cry and whine about that, in your opinion? Probably not. You don't have to answer that, Mr. Sparza. The point is, folks, is this. We had a bad situation. We had no opportunity to ever finish these homes. And now we have the funding, we have experts on board, and we're moving forward. And so to attempt to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory, I don't understand that. I'll be honest with you. This is a good thing. Thousands of people will get their homes sound insulated. You know, I can't turn back the clock, but what I can say is that people that have waited a long time will finally get what they deserve. That's a good thing. Thank you. Madam City Clerk?
Council Members Stevens?
Aye.
Dunlap?
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Mayor Butts?
Aye. Call to order the City of Inglewood as a successor agency,
A quorum is present.
CSA 2.
Monthly Treasurer's Report for the month ending November 30th, 2012.
Receive and file. Adjourn the successor agency. Call to order the Inglewood Housing Authority,
A quorum is present.
H2.
Monthly Treasurer's Report for the month ending November 30th, 2012.
Receive and file. Adjourn the Inglewood Housing Authority. Call to roll the Inglewood Public Financing Authority.
A quorum is present. Monthly Treasurer's Report for the month ending November 30th, 2012.
Receive and file. Adjourn the Inglewood Public Financing Authority.
Back to City Council.
Back to reconvene the City Council.
A quorum is present.
CM1.
No verbal reports, Mayor.
A1.
We didn't
There
have
was no closed session.
yeah.
A2.
Staff report recommending approval of amendment to number 1 to agreement number 12132 with Bergman, Dacey, Goldsmith to provide legal services.
Move approval.
Second.
Staff report, please.
Thank you. This is a request from the City Attorney's Office for amendment number 1 on agreement number 12-132 for an additional funds of amount of $225,000. The original agreement was for $300,000, and it was approved by the City Council on November 27, 2012.
Thank you.
Madam City Clerk.
Council members Stevens.
I have a comment. Question.
Councilman Stevens.
Just specifically, we're dealing with Bergman, Dacey, and Goldsmith. Do we ever receive a itemization of what it is that they're doing? I've never seen an itemization brought before council. As I stated before, the state of California states from the finance department, and we will have to pay this from our general fund. It says we have 5 days here, and it says $16,379,496. This is the letter itself right here. And my concern is that we're spending money as though we do not have to pay anything. This is a result of the dissolving of our redevelopment agency and actions that were taken in the last 2 years. And so I'm asking you this for a purpose. Bergman, Dacey, and Goldsmith, I'm sure they're a fine law firm. But I do not see anything substantiating what they're doing. We're paying them, it states very clearly here, with Bergman, Dacey, Goldsmith to provide legal advice and legal representation for the City of Inglewood on various legal matters in an amount not to exceed $225,000. And then it states in brackets, general fund. That means that this $225,000 will be derived from our general fund, correct?
That's correct.
Well, this just goes to my point, is that what specifically will they be, have they done? What will they be doing specifically?
Would you like me to respond?
Please, please.
Currently, the firm is handling a number of different items for the city of Inglewood. One of them is the lawsuit regarding the city of Inglewood and the Inglewood Unified School District, in which we are trying to get some additional funding from them. Another one is they do audits. They've handled a lawsuit with the Inglewood Redevelopment Agency that they've handled some questions and answers for us. They also have some general legal matters that they've handled for the city of Inglewood, at least 4 of them dealing with Inglewood employees. They also handled the lawsuit regarding the Inglewood neighborhood housing, which is on appeal, and the specific lawsuit that began that. They also handled some questions regarding a sewer bid bond dispute, questions regarding the Crenshaw LAX transit corridor, again, some number of different lawsuits that we had with employees with the city of Inglewood. And we also currently had 2 items on the closed session item that we asked questions on. One of them dealing with the parking structure number 1, for example.
So the last payment that they received was when?
The last payment that I understand was received was in the warrant register, and I believe they put in for 4 or 5 items for approximately $70,000 to $75,000.
And that was how long ago?
It was paid, I said it was on the last warrant registry.
So that was last week?
Correct.
That's before. And so it's I would say every 2 or 3 weeks, this same company comes up. And my concern is for the amount of money, as you stated, $75,000. Just what are we paying for? This particular one here, this one here is for $225,000.
That's correct, for amendment number 1 to the agreement.
Colleagues, I feel that we should have more information detailing specifically what are their accomplishments, what are they doing, are they filing motions, what type of motions, are they filing, are there depositions that are taking place? Well, no, when we depose someone, we pay for that separately, do we not, Mr. Campos?
Some of it may be considered with that particular law firm's bills.
All right, so I would suggest, colleagues, that we perhaps ask the city managers to start providing us with more detail of just what specifically the various law firms that we work with, which are we have other law firms other than Bergman and Dacey and Goldsmith. Excuse me, colleague? No, I'd be more than happy to exchange thoughts.
I'm good.
You're good? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for, is to exchange thoughts. So I have no problem with that. But that's my concern. My concern is that we seem, when it comes to legal, we just simply just open up the general fund and just say, here it is. And what is their success rate? What is their particular success rate?
In which matter are you referring to?
Well, just overall.
Overall, they've been very well.
They have?
And they've received and have been able to provide the city the money that we may have lost otherwise.
Okay, we're at time. Councilman Franklin.
Thank you very much, Mayor. First of all, I'm glad the city attorney was able to answer some of that, but many of these issues that my colleagues raised actually falls in the closed session of personnel matters. Mm-hmm. And it's not the purview of the city manager to go in detail. It's actually the city attorney's department, because it's the city attorney that determines what outsourcing service is going to be rendered by outside legal counsel. And when we're in closed session, there is specific recommendations by the city attorney's office, subject to the outside legal counsel's recommendations, that we end up making moving forward. And so divulging in detail, I think, would jeopardize our position if we want to go public about certain strategies and certain actions we were taking. That's why we have closed session, because it does involve personnel. And so we're walking on, we're a tightrope right here, and I have to be super sensitive. I understand you gave the generics about what it covers, but I don't want to follow my colleague's recommendation about specifics, because I think we're now exposing ourselves to some area that we really don't want to be into publicly. And so that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Councilman Morales.
Real quick, and it was brought up to bring up the itemized statements. I know for a fact that the city attorney's office goes over each itemized bill from every attorney's office.
That is
and
correct.
Where it would appropriately be looked at.
The city attorney reviews them and approves them as he deems necessary. We also involved with the Risk Management Association that reviews the billing that is provided by outside attorneys when they reach a certain level.
And this particular firm actually has handled a variety of different cases for us, and without being specific, because we can't too much, has actually saved us a great deal of money because of their good work, just in the past 3 or 4 years. So that much we recognize. So this is the price of good legal representation. So that's it for me.
And the only thing I wanted to reiterate was that you do go over the bills. And Madam City Clerk, you might be interested to know that this is the firm that contracts out for hostile work environment investigations too. So, Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens?
Abstain.
Dunlap?
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Mayor Buds?
Aye. A3. CC1.
2012 general municipal runoff election results. Item number 1 is adopt a resolution reciting the facts for April 2nd. Item number 2 is calling and giving notice for the runoff, which would take place on June 11th. And the third one is to adopt a resolution requesting Board of Supervisors for services related to the runoff.
Mayor, I would like to move approval of
Second.
actually, excuse me?
It's been moved and seconded.
Well, actually, Mayor, with all due respect, since they are identified differently on the agenda than they are in the actual staff documents and the reports out to the public, I would ask that we just vote on these separately, and that would be 1A, 1B, and 1C. So if my colleague who made the motion would move approval of those separately as identified as 1A, 1B, and 1C, and so we could vote on them separately, I'd appreciate it. I think it'd be clearer for the public.
You moved it.
Oh, no, well, I want to vote on them together. Madam City Clerk.
Well, actually, with all due respect, I don't know what you're doing.
Madam City Clerk.
Excuse me. Let me
call the roll.
speak. No, I'm still speaking. I haven't used 5 minutes.
Well, use your
They are
5
identified on the agenda. We have one of my colleagues said move approval of 1, 2, and 3. There is no such resolutions called 1, 2, and 3. I made it very simple. I said to my colleagues, let's vote on them as they are identified in the actual staff reports and how they are identified. And that's 1A, 1B, and 1C. So if you insist on adopting 1, 2, and 3, go ahead, but it will be null and void because there are no such resolutions listed in our agenda packet.
Madam Clerk, I moved approval as you called them. Did you call them an error?
Excuse me, it's not her error, it's our error.
Can we just back up for a second?
Sure.
The items that we have that are agendized are A, B, and C, and they are, so if you want to say, if you want to vote on them all together, you can do that.
Or if we want to vote on them separately as 1A, 1B, and 1C, is what I would appreciate,
Okay,
Mayor.
you're the chair,
I want to
so.
vote on them together.
Okay, Councilmember
Excuse me,
Stevens.
I'd like a staff report on each item, please.
Well, I could do that,
Okay, go
if you
ahead.
want me to.
Go ahead.
Item number 1 is just reciting the facts of the municipal election that was held. And item number 2, we're asking to call for a runoff for June 11th. And item number 3, we're asking for Board of Supervisors help with the runoff election.
Okay. Madam City Clerk.
Now I'd like to comment.
Well, actually, you started a comment, so we'll finish your time up. Go ahead.
Thank you. With regard to 1A, as it is identified in the staff report, it states that voting precincts are properly established and so forth. Well, we have a concern in District 2 that we had 4 polling places which were determined by the voting precincts, and at least one district had 11, and they all had more, and all our districts are supposed to be equal in population. So therefore, we have a concern in the second district with regard to some of this language here. It also talks about some of the provisions of the elections code, which is why I would have preferred we vote on these separately. For example, I'm hoping that the city clerk will establish a hotline, 24-hour hotline. I believe that's what the election code determines, but I don't have it in front of me to speak to it definitively. But it deals with members of the public being able to contact City Hall to see if their absentee ballot has been received. Because if it has not been received, they would have an opportunity to go to the polls on Election Day and vote by provisional. Because I think everyone knows that if an absentee ballot is received on Wednesday and the election is Tuesday, it's not counted. So I would hope that we can do that. Resolution as identified in the staff report is 1B. Talks about the date of the election and being June 11th, and on 1C it has to do with the contracting with certain services for the county. I would like the record to reflect that had we have voted on these separately, I would have voted no on 1, abstain on 2, and yes on 3. I want the record to reflect that in the minutes, please, and then I'll vote accordingly since you put all the motions together. Thank you.
Okay, can I just go back? I want to discuss this because I want to ask Councilwoman Dunlap a couple questions. The first thing you mentioned, you talked about polling places, and you said there were 4? Is that what you're saying?
There were 4 within the boundaries of the second district.
Okay, there were
we had Rogers Park, which is in District 3. I'm well aware what was in District 3. I'm stating that within the actual boundaries, the physical boundaries of District 2, there were 4. There were 11 in District 1. I'm just stating that.
There was actually 6 in your district.
No, 4 within the boundaries, 2 outside of the district.
No. But I don't want to go back and forth. I just want to clarify for the record it was 6, and there were 11 for District 1, and the reason for that is because District 1 is larger. Their population is larger than yours. So that's the reason for that. I also want to mention to you that you'll probably have 7 for this next election, because we're going, now that Latihira is back and up and running, we're going to try to get them. If we can get them, if we can secure them, we're going to have them as well.
Great, thank you.
But please make a note, if we can get them. You know, I don't want to leave here and they say, oh, she said you're going to get it, and then you don't get it. Make it very clear, if we can secure it, we're going to have that. You made mention to ballots coming in on Election Day. Did you say something to the effect of that? I caught the tail end of it, and that they weren't counted?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, so could you say, repeat what you said,
I'd be happy to with the mayor's permission.
Please, another minute.
I said that according to the elections code, a 24-hour hotline.
No, that's not what I was asking about. I was asking about the ballots. You said something to the effect of something coming in on Tuesday and it's not counted. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly.
No, you didn't hear me correctly. Actually, it's about what I just said, meaning that if people vote by absentee, they should be able to, the elections code allows them to call City Hall to see if their ballot has been received, and if not, they may choose to come in and vote on Election Day by provisional, because if their ballot is not received by your office until Wednesday, it's not counted.
Oh, okay.
That's what
so Wednesday, okay, that's fair. Okay. I think that's it.
Okay. Madam City Clerk.
Council members.
Councilman Stevens.
Yes, I would just like for the record to show that I also would vote no on 1, abstain on 2, CC 1B, and I would offer a yes vote on CC-1C, also identified in the agenda as number 3. Also, colleagues, I would just like to bring something to your attention. Maybe you're aware of it, maybe you're not. The sample ballot. When we're dealing with the sample ballot and it's a time where people are to vote at, it's in 10-point font. We have an aging community, the font size should be at a minimum of 12 size, 12 font, perhaps even 14, to simply identify where an individual is to go, where their polling place is located at. I myself found it very difficult to locate on my sample ballot, the booklet that you receive in the mail, where specifically my polling place was. And with many people having their polling places relocated to places as far away as Los Angeles in previous elections, there's no set location, per se, any longer of where a person's polling place is. So I would ask this body, I ask you, Mr. Mayor, to ask the city clerk if she would not perhaps, if she would make the font size for where a person's polling station is a size font of, let's say, 14, at a minimum of 12, rather than 10 or 9. Also, I would also like to show this for the public. This is an absentee ballot. An absentee ballot. And this is a flaw in the system itself, in my opinion. You see, the absentee ballot, we have over 60,000 registered voters in the city of Inglewood. 60,000, many of whom receive an absentee ballot. Many of whom we are not aware of whether or not they even live at the previous residence that they once resided at. Okay, follow me on this. Now, what happens with this envelope is that it is sent to that individual's home who may have moved, and then what happens is it is returned back to Inglewood City Clerk, Yvonne Horton, Manchester Boulevard, Post Office Box 6007, Inglewood, California. Turned to a post office box. And they're returned. Now, once it's returned, this is inside. And what's inside is an envelope. And inside that envelope is a ballot. And a ballot that can be penciled off and marked off accordingly, which can then be placed back into the sleeve, placed back into the yellow envelope, then sealed, stamp placed on it, placed into the mail, and sent in to the city clerk's office, which would then be counted.
No.
I'm saying it could be.
No, don't even go there with him.
See.
Okay, Mayor, I would like to...
No, I'm saying it could be.
Yeah.
I'm saying it could be. It could be. Now, I'm not saying that it is, but it could be. When we have elected officials that support ballot measures that limit a council member's time as far as how long they can speak, as reference to not how long they can speak, but asking for an item to be read, which was on the ballot in the last election, and the person who would have to read it would be the city clerk, and the city clerk is opposed, wishes that it not be where it supports that item that says that the city clerk shall not have to read an item unless, then in my opinion, that city clerk or elected official has a horse in the race. Same as if they had a candidate. So I'm not accusing anyone. I'm only pointing out a flaw in the process. And it would be outstanding if our elections were, we had a participation in our elections of 7,000, 8,000, 10,000, or maybe just half of the 60,000 people who are registered voters in the city of Inglewood would participate. It would make it without a doubt that everything was, as they say, on the up and up.
Okay,
but when you have an election where as little as 2,000 people participate, it makes us all wonder.
Councilman Stevens, you're at time.
Thank you very much. First, Mayor, I'd like to first start out by saying I don't have any control over who goes to the polls and who don't. I just don't have that type of control. Second of all, basically I just been slandered again. when you start talking about mail that comes back and people can vote, and I mean, personally, and this is clearly on a personal note, I enjoy my freedom, and I'm not going to do nothing crazy like that, because I'm not going to jail, because that's where you're going to go. And that's on a personal note. I want everybody to know here and at home who's going to watch this. There's no way I'm going to jeopardize my freedom. I love my family too much. I have a wonderful husband. We have a great family, a great reputation, and we have wonderful grandbaby, and I'm not going to jeopardize that for nothing like that. That's just crazy. And now on a business note, when the mail comes back, we have all of it. We have every bit of it. Every ballot that is voted for, we attach the approval from the county to the ballots. We attach it so that if for any reason someone wants a recount or they want to audit, they get their attorneys involved, we have everything. It's right there that has the signature, the approvals from the county. It's so clean. It's a wonderful process. We've made great strides, and I don't think it's really fair to slander an office. I mean, even if you do that kind of stuff, you got to get people to go along with you to do that kind of nonsense. And who's going to do that? These people, they don't even care. Most of them don't even live in Inglewood. They could care less who runs, who wins. That's not even the issue. These people, as well as myself, we come here to do a job. And, you know, this constant slander and abuse is just really getting a bit much. As far as the font for the sample ballot, I don't even have control over that. I don't make that. That comes from our election consultants. I don't have anything to do with that. In closing, I would like to talk a little bit more about the election. In District 1, we have a runoff with Mr. Dobson, Mr. George Dobson, and Mr. Stevens. There was a few people in the race. There's a breakdown of each vote and where it came from. In District 2, we have a runoff with Mrs. Dunlap and Mr. Padilla. And in school board seat 1, there was no one person running, and that was the incumbent, Mr. Butler. And school board seat 2, we have a winner, and that is Mrs. McGee. And school board 3, we have a winner, and that was Mrs. Wilson. And in measure P and W, they both passed. And so, you know, sorry that you feel that way. Again, I'll just remind the residents, because I did get a few calls. No one complained 2 years ago. Mr. Stevens never complained 2 years ago when he won. The process was beautiful. Now that it looks different, it's a different, you know, it changed. It's now all flawed. People are going to take envelopes and return them and fill them out and send it back. No. So I would just say that maybe you should check the voters and see how they really feel, because apparently they're the ones who've spoken, and it's like a disrespect and slap on to the residents who voted. You're saying, I don't believe you voted like that. I dare you not vote for me. Wow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's the end of my remarks. And now, if we could take the vote for that, I would.
I want to see if anybody else has
Oh,
anything to
okay.
say.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Well,
Wow.
I just want to reiterate this, that one of the things that I noted, we had more people vote in the District 1 election this time than we did the last time 2 years ago, and far more people voted in District 2. Isn't that correct? And I didn't hear a peep of a complaint 2 years ago. Not one peep of a complaint about fonts, envelopes, this and that. It was wonderful. And the fact of the matter is that the people that come to vote have their votes counted, and the people voted the way they chose. And to attempt to blame the scorekeeper, because that's what you do, you count the votes, as a ruse to say, I can't believe the voters voted the way they did, I think that's shameful. And I don't think that you should process this. This is nothing but sour grapes. Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Abstain.
Dunlap.
Abstain. Oh, actually, I want to vote no.
Morales.
I'm voting
Aye.
no.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye.
On the remarks, I would appreciate it, Mayor, if you would be so kind. A longtime resident, Harold Lawrence, which is in District 4, Councilman Franklin, Bernice Lawrence, her husband, passed away a week ago, and services will be, I believe, at the end of this week. So if we can close the meeting in memory of Harold Lawrence, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you kindly.
That will be fine. Madam City Treasurer.
We have the monthly treasurer's report for the month ending November 30th, 2012.
Receive and file, and now the verbal report from the Madam City Treasurer.
Thank you, Mayor. And I have put on the outside desk there copies of the treasurer's report. You can follow along with me, and also pass them out to those that was in attendance. And the monthly treasurer's report as of November 30, 2012 for the City of Inglewood. The funds under management, total cash and investments is $85,011,700. And for the successor agency, $102,032,050. Housing Authority, $100,226. Public Finance Authority, $13,488,269. Total funds under management is $200,632,245. And the earnings for the City of Inglewood, $34,869. Successor agency, $15, and the Housing Authority, the Public Finance Authority. And also there are accompanying graphs that you can follow along for the report that was presented also. And also would like to mention with regards to the funds that have actually been invested as of April the 15th, 2013, the total is $19,001,325. And the breakdown is Federal Home Loan Bond, there's $3 million there, Freddie Mac, $4 million, and Fannie Mae, there's $5 million, and Federal Farm Credit, $6.9 million, a total of $19,001,325 that's currently invested as of April the 15th. And would like to point out also that I did make a $2 million investment. These are some bonds that that were called, so they went back into the pool, so I reinvested those dollars of $2 million, and they were invested in Fannie Mae. And the coupon on that particular bond is 1.02, and it's a 5-year non-call for 1 year. So I have 1 year of call protection for that particular bond. And with regards to the long-term debt for the general long-term debt for the city, for the merged redevelopment tax allocation bonds, we have a total of $46,700,924, and that's Series 1998A, Series 2003A, and sub-lien bonds 2003. And for the subordinate lien bonds, the total is $101,100,000, and that's for 2000 Series A through 1 rather, 2000 Series A through T, and 2000 Series A through H. And taxable pension obligation bonds, the total for those is $56,366,302. And again, that's Series 2005A, 2005 Series B, and 2005 Series C. And we have lease revenue bonds of this is 2000 Series 2012, $30,879,040. And we have a note payable that has a balance roughly of $1.5 billion. So the total indebtedness for bonds is $236,546,266. And with regards to the bills that were paid for the month of April thus far has been 4.2 million, and the net payroll has been 1.3 million, and the total for the month has been $5.4 million for the month. So the bills that have been paid for this year, for fiscal year October through April thus far, has been $67,215,672.75. And the total for the month has been $84,576,222.28. And also I would like to mention I put out on the table some articles that was written by the Los Angeles Times in April entitled "Law School Graduates Aren't Finding Much on the Employment Document." And I put that out there primarily because it's an article that's kind of letting folks to know that the law schools have been misleading a lot of students to attend law schools, and these students have graduated within the last 5 years and have not been able to find jobs, and some of them have actually filed lawsuits regarding that. And I have a neighbor who just finished her 4 year of schooling and was going to go into law school, so I passed this article on to her. And many of them are graduating with huge debts of anywhere from $30,000 to $100,000, and finding out they're having to pay, upwards to $1,500 to $1,700 to $1,800 per month on degrees that are literally where they're not able to find work. So take a keen look into law school before you go that direction, because employment has been pretty dismal for about the past 5 years, and those that have been able to get jobs have been able to get them primarily through connections or people that they know who have helped them, gain work. Many of them are working in fields from working in restaurants to computer technology, but has nothing to do with law. So just keep that in mind. That concludes my remarks.
I have a question for the city treasurer.
Councilman Della.
Yes, Madam City Treasurer, the $3.9 million redevelopment funds used as a prepayment in this year's budget, is it kept in a separate fund? Is that money you're investing? I'm just curious.
I have no idea.
$3.9 million of prepayment or redevelopment from Hollywood Park, Hollywood Park Tomorrow project.
The funds that I'm investing primarily are general fund dollars for the most part. Those are the dollars that I have been investing. I don't remember mentioning anything regarding any $3.9 million from Hollywood Park.
Okay, so, all right, the $2.5 million upfront money from the waste hauler, is that in a separate account? Do you happen to know?
Again, Councilwoman, the funds that I do invest are primarily general fund dollars.
Well, that would be general fund, the waste.
Do you see that amount in my report at all?
Well, I doubt if you would identify it as waste hauler, that's the source. I'm saying, is it actually in there, or has it been spent, or do you know?
Well, the funds that I have been invested have been very carefully detailed in the Treasury report. I suggest you look at that.
Well, actually, it says general fund, and waste hauler money, it goes right into the general fund. But I'll be very happy to ask Mr. Esparza. He may know that. I actually was just curious if any of this money had been invested. And since you do the investment, it was not meant to be an antagonistic question. I thought you would know offhand, $3.9 million, because actually we're talking about $6.4 million in total, and I did think some of that money might have been available, at least on the short term, for an investment. But thank you.
Thank you, Madam City Treasurer. Councilman Morales nominates and I appoint Daniel Segura to the Police Oversight Commission.
Move concurrence.
Second. Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. Public comment. Any persons wishing to address the City Council on any matter not connected with city business not elsewhere considered may do so at this time.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Joseph Texera. I'm asking this council to remove James Butts as council chairman because last week he again showed he is unfit to ethically run these meetings. There were so many examples of this, but here's 4. First, last week James Butts said that it's about time everybody has to play by the same rules. But he repeatedly violated the rules of these meetings, like interrupting public speakers, and he even gave himself another councilman's time just to help himself. Butts repeatedly breaks the meeting rules. Second, last week I again told the council that the city clerk was violating state law by ignoring my multiple requests for public records for 15 weeks when state law demands that she respond in no more than 10 days. Today, I had my request submitted to the clerk for the fifth time in 15 weeks. But what did the mayor do? The mayor did nothing. He even refused last week to accept the copies of the requests I tried to give to the council. And remember, last April, James Butts was forced to publicly admit that he helped violate the same law for 9 months. James Butts repeatedly helps break the law. Third, last week, James Butts condemned other council members for allegedly complaining of the city clerk's handling of the election, Butts claimed that they shouldn't complain about the clerk because when he was running for mayor in 2010, the clerk took him off the ballot, and he never said anything about the clerk. Well, as everybody knows, the problem is that's a very well documented lie by James Butts. The DVD of the July 10th, 2010 City Council meeting ran by Ralph Franklin shows an angry James Butts, repeatedly disrupting the meeting, refusing to leave this podium for over 5 minutes, then repeatedly yelling from the audience, with Ralph Franklin repeatedly and loudly calling the Sergeant of Arms to restrain Butts. Why? That night, a belligerent candidate, James Butts, spent most of his public comments implying that Yvonne Horton and her staff pulled something crooked by trying to take him off the ballot. Butts said that a report by the city clerk attacked his, quote, character and credibility, that Yvonne Horton didn't tell him the truth, and that she was involved in an investigation, to quote Butts, where the facts were obviously being manipulated, unquote. So last week, James Butts lied to the public again. Everybody knows he did publicly and loudly imply that the city clerk and her staff did something crooked with an election. But the worst is this. As police chief, James Butts approved and has defended here a policy that denied Americans their constitutional right to speak to an attorney before being questioned. However, Butts told this council in 2010 that he was afraid to sign an affidavit for the clerk that would have let him back on the ballot. Why? Because he didn't have an attorney with him. James Butts breaks the rules, helps break the law, and doesn't tell the truth. He's a hypocrite who should be removed as city council chair.
Thank you, Mr. Texera. It's always enjoyable.
Council members, it is always amusing when you go through and you do the stuff that you do. And in particular, I love the whole thing about the string penance. Isn't that precious? Because now we sit back and do a debate whether something flapping in the wind is or is not activated by, what is it? The wind. Okay, well, how is it that we claim we care when we don't have any code enforcement people to enforce it on a consistent and regular basis? That 3-story disaster thing on Prairie, the Skyline goodie, has had pennants up there for who knows how long. And it doesn't sell nursery supplies, and it's not a parking lot filled with cars for sale. It's an empty 3-story office building pushed through by a bunch of folks who wanted a Skyline. Then, of course, there's that other pathetic adventure that we don't bother to have code enforcement officers for parking on weekends. How convenient for the churches. Isn't that precious? You see, for the last weeks, a church in the middle of a neighborhood parks on the no parking side of a very narrow street, umpteen houses down the block. The people who are trying to leave their own driveways can't. The people who are trying to go down the street can't, and there's nobody to call because, well, we don't have code enforcement on Sundays. What a concept. Isn't it interesting that we have so many sometime rules for some people, never mind rules for other people, and then we get an attitude about some people and find every possible reason under the sun and make up a few to give others a hard time. This is not a fair and equitable community. It is biased, it is challenged, and oh my goodness, could it be that we don't remember some people's election issues 2 years ago because they weren't necessarily the same offices? Yeah, 2 years ago it was not District 1 and 2 that was up for election.
Yes, it was.
Well, it was a part-time. So if we actually looked at it, we could come up with the months and the years and the possibilities, but we didn't have 4 years at stake last 2 years ago, did we? And I think it's interesting, since we're being corrected, I've said it before. I kind of wanted to know the total period, simply the total, and then divide it out later. But we couldn't even get a total of a total of a total. And then, you know, I've mentioned that $750,000 a week item for several weeks now, and we're all pretending we don't know what it is. It's going to be funny at least one person over here in Homeland Security is going to have an entertaining adventure when it finally hits, well, when
Thank
it
you,
hits.
Mr. Bruno.
Mayor.
Hold on one second. We have parking vouchers for anyone that parks in the structure. You can get them from Mr. Falco at the conclusion of the meeting. Ms. Horton.
I just want the public to know, the facts are, we had 3 elections in 2011. One was in January. It was for the mayor's race. 2 was in March for Councilman Stevens' race, which he was running for to fill the unexpired term of Danny Tabor. And the third race was in April, and that was for Councilman Franklin. So those seats were Mayor, District 1, and District 4. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fisher, would you come forward? Well, Miss Austin, do you want to talk or do you want to film? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you. Please come forward.
My name is Cecil Carpio. I was born November 15th, 1953. I moved here February 1st, 1973. As I was walking from home up along La Brea to get to City Hall, I thought about all of us living here in the city of Inglewood and the impact that the airport LAX continues to have on our lives and the bitterness that is involved with dealing with the airport and really thinking about each one of us as a human being living in this area. And I thought of Councilman Franklin and Councilman Morales and you, Mayor Butts and Councilwoman Dunlap and Councilman Stevens, that living here, it does impact our lives, physical impacts. And I see folks passing away. And yes, I know I'm approaching 60, and it is that season of my life, but it doesn't make it any easier. Today I got the news that a compatriot, a partner, a friend passed away as yesterday was turning into today. She lived in Westchester and was a proponent for the regional solution to airport congestion, is known as RSAC, part of the fight against the expansion of the airport. And as I sat here listening to what was going on during the meeting, my heart broke again with everyone having to defend themselves. And I think what I want to do is just share with you how each of us is a human being trying to do the best that they can. And to remind us all that the decisions that are made in this city are so impactful to each one of us who lives here. And to please continue to examine the issues and really look at it from a human point of view, not from money, not from gain, but that each one of us can die from the decisions that are made as we try to live. I can talk for myself. I love where I live. It's sacred to me. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Leroy Fisher, the 1st District. You know, I want to talk a little bit about the blame game. I guess it's all of our faults when we don't get out and we don't vote. It's all of our faults when we look at the city and see that many of the things that we should have, we don't have. Some of those things, and I'll get right to the point with it, is a YMCA that I've talked to you all about so many times, things that make cities viable and good for the community. Instead, you know, you decided that you're going to give that property that was once designated for a YMCA to Madison Square Gardens for a parking lot. I think it was wrong. I stand to you now and say that none of you talk that talk about the children and about the seniors. You have a senior citizen center that you haven't even moved on. You keep talking and playing games about having people come to these senior meetings, but I don't think that that's viable or is going to happen for the monies that you do have. I applaud you for hiring Mr. Spaza here. Some of the things that he has proposed and some of the things that he has been working to make happen here, I think will be very good and positive for those residents who have wanted these things to happen for a long time. I will say to you all, though, that as people come in here to talk to you them about the city and about things that go on and some of the recommendations that we make to you or try to make to you, you them don't listen or cast to the side. Changing a bit now, one of the things that I talked about in the campaign that I run for District 1 was the fact that we have a marijuana clinic on 93rd or 93rd and Van Ness at the market there. Some years ago, I can remember when this marijuana thing came to this city that they said there was only going to be one. Now I know that there's two, at least that I know of, one here on Market Street and one over there on 93rd and Van Ness. I say this and I bring it to you because I said, and I will still continue to fight for that. The state allows those things. The federal government says no. But I don't think that those things should be in certain areas of this city. And, just like these cash checking stands that proliferate this city, it was said that there would be no more than one marijuana clinic. And I remember that. Now you have two that I know of. And you have them in parts of the city that are not reflected well with the young people of the city or the communities that they're involved in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher.
Theola Gardner, District 1. I was inspired by the very emotional speech that was made prior to me concerning persons in Inglewood with the flight of airplanes over our residents. I deeply understand the emotion of Mike Stevens. As a young man, his family beginning, he sacrificed because he had something he believed in. He believed he could remove what was happening to residents in Inglewood. He believed that he could garner enough followers that had the same belief. He trusted that the airport would accept their responsibility and would come to the aid of community. Single-handedly, not another person up there other than Mike Stevens. I walked with him. We walked until our feet had blisters. I invited them to cool their feet off in our pools. And now to hear him ridiculed, insulted, sarcasm, it's hard to swallow. Very difficult. My pain is deep as a follower. Whether I received the insulation or not, I welcome those who did receive it. But I don't see it happening to the bungalow homes. I see it going everywhere but. And you think it's all right. I don't. Not only myself, but many others. Others who have passed on. And what are you doing about it? Fussing. Feeling as though you have to take the laurels from Mike Stevens. Something that he wanted to do out of dedication. And you know what? I admire him. Out of all the bickering and slanders and insults from all of you up there and anywhere else, when a man can stand for what he believes and can stand alone because he believes in it, God bless him and well done. And people out there on your TVs, that's a person you should have for leadership. That's a person that's a leader. He's my hero. And God bless.
Thank you, Ms. Gardner.
Gil Matthew, District 4. Mayor and City Council. It's very interesting that no member, no staff will comment on the financial condition of this city. And I stand before you to tell you here and now, if you don't, this city will be bankrupt. You're already broke, B-R-O-K-E capital. You're broke. You won't comment on a successor agency. I don't know if even you're reading the ROPS. I don't know if you're reading this cruise letters. I read them. You $1 billion outstanding debt. 1.1 B. Now, Mayor, you said you never heard of it. I believe you because you haven't been here. You're a newbie. You're a newcomer. You're not ready for prime time. And unless this city gets together, get a plan B, level with the people, and where is the money? They say, dinero. Right, Mr. Morales? That's the way it goes?
That was wrong.
Close. But anyway, where's the money? Dinero's the money, down to where he is, or he's staying, or whatever, you know. I'm trying. But anyway, the people and the residents of this city, listen carefully to me. I have my marching shoes on, I have my walker, and I'm ready to hit the pavement. In Democratic Party, I'm changing my affiliation, and I urge everybody else to change it. Because you cannot come in here and tell me how to vote and take my privilege for granted. And you have two turkeys with Farmer John endorsing this election and walking. That's divisive. That's totally divisive. And why would you do that? I don't know. You already have two turkeys, why two more? You know, it doesn't make sense. As far as human beings, you're decent human beings. I have no problem with that. But the politics, you're not interested in the city. You're interested in control. And you cannot micromanage this city because you're not qualified. And stop trying and leave staff alone.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I am appalled at what's going on at this meeting, what's going on at the elections, what's going on at the park, North Park. I cannot believe, after all the work that Ms. Dunlap has done for North Park, you go in and take the credit and cut the ribbon. Without any notice, there were no flyers to any of our people because I went around asking. There was no notice at all. If there was anybody there from District 2, let me know, because we weren't home. And you purposely chose a day, purposely, that Miss Dunlap couldn't be there.
It's not true, ma'am.
That is true.
No, ma'am, it's not.
Excuse me, but that is true.
And nor did I set
Don't
the day.
try and lie about
No,
it.
nor did I set the day.
Okay.
Parks and
All
Rec
right.
did.
Now, the election. I think she has, let me get back to the park. She has every right in the world. Were you there when that park was being built by Kaboom, Marriott Hotels, and the residents? Were you there? Did you even come and look at the park?
Yes, I did.
I didn't see you.
Yes, I did.
And I was there all day long,
All right, ma'am. I'm not. Please
Okay.
go on and finish your time.
the whole day. All right. Now, the park dedication and the bathroom dedication belongs to Councilwoman District 2, not the mayor of Inglewood, because mayor of Inglewood didn't do anything. All right, now, the elections. The polling places were purposely put, purposely I'm saying, very hard to get to. For a handicapped person, we had to go to Good Shepherd. Okay, no parking, because the parking lot was locked. Okay, we had to park on the street, back and forth until we found the spot. Climb a hill, which is very hard to do for handicap, but yet that place was chosen. We had Sentinel School, we had the Baptist Church right down the street, we had the old fire station, which is not there anymore, of course, but it was chosen that we couldn't get up to it easily. But we did it. We did it. There were other polling places you couldn't get to. I understand, I wasn't in that area, but I believe it was La Cienega and Fairview. Wasn't there a flood from the DWP that day? So people could not cross that street? Why?
Thank you, ma'am.
Why? My time is up, and I don't like the way you're very shameful in the way you're acting.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well,
But, Mayor, I just want to say
Go
something
ahead.
really quickly, and then I'm going
Please,
to stop.
go right ahead.
The polling places that we've had Good Shepherd Homes has been a polling place before I got here, and so we've only used it as Ms. Decatur, I don't mean to bring you into this, but she worked with me, and she knows that that has always been a polling place, so it's nothing new. Majority of our polling places have been consistent prior to me getting here, so I'm only using, I don't like to jump around, because then people say, oh, you switched it and now we couldn't go there. And so I try to be consistent so that people remember that's where they went before.
Ms. Horton,
Thank you very
everyone
much.
Everyone understands what's
Thank
going
you.
on. Mr. Agee, please.
My name is Willie Agee, and I live in the beautiful city of Inglewood. I want to say this. I'm your Park and Recreation Commission. I'm chairman. I don't know what the fuss is about North Park, but I can tell you who's responsible for those little beautiful kids at North Park having a beautiful restroom to use and playground equipment. I can tell you who is responsible. Young lady worked here by the name of Miss Thickpen. She the one went out and got the funds in order to build the restroom. Miss Sabrina Barnes, who is the director of Park and Recreation, she fought Park and Recreation commissioners. I did visit North Park here a couple of years back. I saw that there was no restroom there. I went to Miss Barnes, suggested that we do something about it. And I guess evidently she went to Miss Stickpen and they got the wheel rolling. That's I give credit for having the restroom at North Park, and it's a beautiful place. And I was there. I was standing right next to the mayor when he cut the ribbon. There was some happy young kids there, and I don't know where Miss Dunlap was. She wasn't there. As a matter of fact, somebody said she had surgery or something, you know. But I can see she's at city council meeting today. That's awful quick recovery. I want to thank the people that's doing the right thing, in my opinion, for this city. This ain't the first time. I'm proud of this city. I don't want to live any place other than here. And I don't think we could have a better city clerk than Miss Yvonne Horton. And Miss Wanda Brown, I can tell you, is the best, 25 years, and never lost a penny in this city. Staff couldn't be better. Mr. Franklin, Mr. Morales, Mayor Butts, you're the wheel that's making this city roll. And all I can say is keep up the good work. I support you 100%. Look here, without you, I don't know what would happen to this city, because you can't build a city complaining all the time. Do what you have to do and let the wheels roll. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I was here a few weeks ago and I raised hell and I thought I said I'd never be back. But I can't take this anymore. You're full of lies, okay? You're full of lies. We were against that restroom. It was going to be right against our property. And Judy got input from all the residents. And since it was right adjacent to our wall, I said, no way can you build this thing 15 feet from our wall. And so she talked around and arranged for it to be 40 feet of wall. That's the furthest we could get it for. So do not say that she had nothing to do with building this park. She went around with Borgos from this and different places and found different restrooms. She decided on that one, got permission from the architect from the one in Simi Valley, I believe, to build it exactly like that. And she was the one that was responsible for that being built there. And for her not to be there for the dedication was just pure crap. You could have built it around her. We were out of town Monday. We came Thursday. The dedication had been done. Now that just is not right. And for you to take care of that with the chief, take credit for the whole thing and knock her at the same time, because we heard about it, is just not right. Okay? Taking full credit, full credit, full credit. What are you talking about? She was the one that wanted it in the first place, and I didn't want it. My wife didn't want it. But we finally agreed to it. Okay, if you could put it further away than 15 feet, fine. So that's why it got done. So shame on you for trying to take the credit for it and knocking her for getting that restroom there. Whether it'll be successful or not, I don't know. I'm sure there's going to still be crime there. I'm sure you're going to forget to lock it at night. We're going to forget to open it in the morning, and so on and so forth. As far as I'm concerned, police ought to open it in the morning and close it at night. Put a code lock on it so any police officer can go there, lock it up at night, open it up in the morning. That way they're on patrol as well. They can see if anything's bad going on. But I don't think it'll happen. So you have a beautiful restroom there, and it's not going to be protected. So for you to disgrace Judy and tell her that thing, and then you have your Shields out here in the audience, Mayor, who are all for you. No matter what you say, they're always for you. So,
thank you, Mrs.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we're gonna, in a moment, we're gonna take a recess, but really quick. One, staff set the dedication date. They had made notifications in the neighborhood.
Excuse me, Mayor.
No,
Is
don't,
this,
please don't interrupt.
No, is this your
Please-
closing
please,
remarks?
Please don't
Is this
please
your
don't
closing
interrupt.
remarks?
And secondly,
Is this your closing remarks?
I took no credit for anything to do with it.
Point of order. Is
I
this your
thanked-
closing remarks, sir?
I thanked staff.
Are these your
And so
closing remarks?
I just think I
Point
want
of
to
order?
you, dear, and I want to make sure you're clear on that. All right, we're going to take a recess.
Present.
All right, complete public comment. Ms. Austin, did you want to make a comment?
Okay.
My name is Ethel Austin. I've been ordained in the ministry Sunday. I'm still going to be me. It's just things that I want to say. For us, the election, I want to say that everyone knows what happened when I set up the city with bad elections. We know about the voters' fraud. I'm not going to accuse anyone about it because this happened a while back. The FBI was trained when they hit bail. This is baby bail. Everyone knows about Alex Padilla having 50% when nobody voted. We monitored these polls. No Mexicans voted, and there ain't no blacks gonna vote for Padilla because everybody know he a dirty cop from Santa Monica. We already know that. Also, another thing, Judy Dunlap did this bathroom. I can't understand why power is so like Satan, satanic, over a toilet. Y'all taking somebody rep over a toilet. You couldn't have been bringing our chief of police. We don't have police right now. You done took our police department, shut it down like the White House with a red thing. And I know you did it, Mayor Butts, because you running the police department also. You running the council. You running everything. This the 9th floor penthouse. Now we calling the 9th floor the penthouse. You can make all them faces. You really don't know how ugly you look. But everybody else do. You can make anything you want. But we are reporting everything to fair political practices. What you doing is out of line. This ain't slavery. This is not slavery. And you running this like you a slave ship. Then you cutting mics off. You just got the beginning. We were together when you spoke and I walked away from you because you're Satan. You're Satan. Don't think every grin is a friend. Don't think that what you did with all those don't think them white people don't know what you about. Everybody watching this city, y'all three. These two, I'm going to just tell the people the way it is. If you vote for Padilla, you got a dirty cop coming. From Santa Monica, his brother was pervert on the Santa Monica Pier, swept under there.
Recess.
Also, Mike Stevens.
Would you escort her off? Yes, you are. Okay, we're back on. Ms. Sly.
Aldine Sly, First District. And I just have some questions. First of all, thank you, Representative Stevens, for asking questions, for clearing up some of the, is the microphone on? Thank you, Councilman Stevens, for asking questions, enlightening the audience. Even though you vote along with the rest of the council, it's so enlightening to know what is behind your questions so that we know what's going on. I'm wondering how many more employees of Inglewood or staff who have caused Inglewood to lose millions of dollars are going to either retire or quit without being accused of anything? How many more? That's my tax dollars and the rest of Inglewood's tax dollars going out the door. The money isn't lost, it's stolen. My other question is, when an outside corporation sends a representative, why is it that one city councilman has to explain to that person what his job is? CSDA, for an example, the gentleman stood here and one of our councilmen described his position. Thank you, Councilman Stevens, for vetting this person, letting us know he was just a representative. It wasn't his company. So he was a front man for that company. We're not stupid out here. But we need people like the 1st District Councilman to bring us on board to let us know what the underbelly of what's going on is. Then we make our own decisions. The general fund, I really worry about it. That general fund seems to be used for a lot of things, and I asked you personally, Mayor, one evening, what the general fund was for, and you told me, well, you know, it's to, you know, pay salaries and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But quite a bit of money is coming out of that general fund, and I'd like to know, I'd like to get an accounting of how much money is in that fund at one period of time. And the last thing is WP. The WP that was on the ballot, it never had a rebuttal. So when people read their sample ballots, they only heard about one side. It's going to save Inglewood money. That WP is a cloak to keep the citizens from knowing what's going on in this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll close public comment. Council comments. Councilman Stevens.
Yes, I would like to first state that Nan Snyder was an individual who fought for the residents of Westchester, well as Inglewood. She attempted to help and inform residents regarding LAX. She did die of cancer, and she suffered with cancer for, I say, the past, 10 years. It's unfortunate that people are dying waiting for their soundproof windows, and it's also unfortunate that people seem to only see soundproof windows as this somehow it's a gift. Remember, it is state mandated that LAX make the surrounding area around this airport compatible. And the way that they do that, one of the ways is, in fact, sound insulating your home. Now, unfortunately, when people do not receive a HEPA filter to filter out the benzene and the carcinogens that are coming out of these planes. Out of that exhaust comes carcinogens, benzene, half-burnt jet fuel. And so when it lands on your patio furniture and you touch it and then you go, you have your Super Bowl party outside, wash your hands first because those carcinogens are there. It's more to this than just simply soundproof windows. Now, I would just like to clarify a few things because I believe the mayor misspoke. The issue dealing with the funding for sound insulation, the issue was never that the contractors received the money for the sound insulation. Matter of fact, the delay, the non-filing of the grant report is the real issue. The issue is that where did the money go? Because, see, the money was to be returned back to LAX, and LAX has no record, Mr. Mayor, of it ever being returned. And that's the issue. We cannot account for where the money was spent. So this whole idea that, well, we just want to put it behind us and move forward. If we have to move forward at the expense of allowing LAX to expand without us objecting to anything, is that what we're really doing here? Why are we not objecting? Why are we not fighting? Why are we just silent? And so Nan Snyder, I'd like for you, Mr. Mayor, to adjourn this meeting in the memory of Nan Snyder. Nan Snyder, a good-hearted person who attempted to educate people. She was a teacher and attempted to educate people, not only children, but also adults. Also, one other thing, just for clarity, in reference to the city clerk, she also misspoke. The elections, it was as follows. James Butts ran for mayor the first time. He stated in the city clerk's office that nothing good could come out of this. Mr. Teixeira was absolutely correct on everything, but I do beg to differ with him on that one portion. What he stated was, according to Mr. Fred Wuscher, the city clerk's attorney, nothing could come out of this if he was in fact to sign an affidavit stating that that was where he lived. Then the second election came about, and it was Mr. James Butts running for office, and that was Danny Tabor, Jose Soto, and Mike Stevens running for mayor.
Your time, Mr.
And then the third
Mr.
election
Stevens,
was,
your
in fact,
time.
District 1. Ladies and gentlemen,
Recess.
thank you very much for your...
Okay, we're back on.
Thank you very much for your support. Have a good evening, and drive safely. Good night.
Councilwoman Dunlap.
Yes, actually, I'd like to clarify the record with regard to the ribbon cutting for the bathroom in North Park, a project for which I worked many years to get accomplished. When the department head for Parks and Rec contacted me about the ribbon cutting to let me know the project had finally been completed, and she recommended a Thursday at 11 o'clock. And I said to her, my residents can't go at 11 o'clock on a Thursday. They're not home. They're working. I said, I want to have it on a Saturday. And so that's what we were striving for, was to have a Saturday when people could be there to actually celebrate the opening of this bathroom, and of course kind of have a party atmosphere with our great Kaboom plate equipment as well. When I was notified that they were moving ahead with it on the Thursday, knowing also then later on that I was unavailable, I said, why are you having it on this Thursday when you know full well the district, the residents want to have it on a Saturday when they can be there? And I had told her, she'd conveyed to me about staff and resources, and I said, well, we'll man it with volunteers. You know, people who live in the area, not a problem. And so when I asked her why was it moving forward, Mayor, she said that she was directed by the city manager to move forward, period. Have it on Thursday when she knew the residents couldn't be there, but she knew you would be there. And the city manager is the one who gave that direction, and I assume since you consult on everything that you were fully aware of this ahead of time. And if not, you can correct the record, even though I think you've already taken up all your closing comment time. I would also like to say that with regard to the election polling places, I'd like to make some suggestions, if I may, to the city clerk, and we'd be happy to assist if we could in this regard. Highland School, which I think was already mentioned, Fairview Heights Baptist Church Gymnasium.
Highland School now.
Okay. Well, Highland School, Fairview Heights Baptist Church Gymnasium, 811 Eucalyptus, as I requested earlier, and also the manager requested, it's the senior building. The Police Community Center, the three community centers were all used for polling places except for the one in District 2, so we would like that to be considered as well. You can't have the Police Community Center?
Well, most of the spots are already accounted for, and we're using the same polling places that we had before. This is a runoff election, and we are tight. Right when we had the election, Ms. Dunlap, please let her have her extra time, because I just want to make sure that. But right when we had the election, April 2nd that night, everything was happening for the runoff election. So we won't be able to do that.
Okay, well, that's a real problem, Madam City Clerk. For one thing, the automotive repair place, people did not like going there. Rogers Park, people in District 2 did not like going there because there's a lot of young people out on the sidewalk who are not necessarily attending the park, and a lot of noise, and people like a quiet place to go and vote. And Rainbow Preschool, the door into the playground area was locked all day, and a lot of people couldn't figure out how to get in there. And then some parents were not happy because they didn't like strangers traipsing across the playground when they had their children in what they believed was a safe and secure environment. I think you could relate to that because you have a little granddaughter. So I'm hoping we can use 811 Eucalyptus. I'm hoping we can use Fairview Heights Baptist Church Gymnasium. And I would
811 North Eucalyptus, I told you we cannot use that because we cannot have a polling place for just them, because other outsiders would have to go into that place. We've talked about that before, Ms. Dunlap.
Okay,
That's not
we're at
possible.
time. You guys can talk about
I
this
would like
later.
to finish my
No,
remarks.
no, actually, you're at time. Councilman Franklin.
Excuse me, did you allot me the time?
Yes,
that-
I did.
I'm not asking you.
We stopped the time.
Yes,
Go ahead.
ma'am, I stopped the clock and restarted it when you began speaking again.
Councilman Frank.
Mayor, I just followed the lead of the city clerk and have you close the meeting in honor of Mr. Harold Lawrence. And my heart goes out to his wife, Bernice. They have been longtime residents in District 4 and very active in the community, and they will be dearly missed. They were very active in their church and community outreach. In fact, they were some of the outreach distant family relatives that supported the initial groundbreaking of PAC 636 and Troop 636 at Benecue Elementary School. And their child that they were helped nurturing went on from graduating from Benecue Elementary School to then get his PhD at UCLA and is now practicing law. I should say jurisprudence degree, and is now practicing law. And so, again, my heart goes out to the family for the loss. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. I'm going to tell you that I understand that.
But I thought you don't have to.
But I don't have to stop talking. I'm going to tell you that one about the park. This is a shameless electioneering. I was invited to the park. They had sent out notifications. They had 25 school children there that were scheduled to be there, and the children were there. I did not take credit for anything. I came and spoke about the staff that had done the work to put the park together, and that's it. There was never any mention of the councilwoman because, frankly, I didn't know why she was there. So that's not true. It's not seemly for a candidate to direct the clerk where to set up polling places. I've never heard of such. I mean, you're supposed to run it. You know, and then this whole thing about where someone said that I have people coming in to shill for me. My goodness, except for Mr. Agee, when do we ever hear a kind word? Let's face it, it's quite the opposite. You know, the other two, they have people come and they'll say whatever, and they'll, Mrs. Kadir, and I don't blame you because you can only know what you're told. But I'm sorry, it's shameless. This whole little setup thing we've got going. I said a week ago that the truth is leaking out. It becomes more and more apparent every week that we have people that just can't accept the will of the voters. And I know that he's a favorite of yours, but that's just the way it is. People vote the way they vote in every election. We have to get over it and accept it. We can't say the system is bad because I didn't get elected, because people rejected me. That's just not the way it works. You have to accept the will of the voters. And I'm going to close the meeting in the name of Nan Snyder, Harold Lawrence, and we're adjourned.
You want me to carry? No. You got it? Okay.